Ha! Ha! Little kids of around 6 years of age were training in the field. There were kids as young as 4 years old as well. They were punching the empty air in front of them. With each kick, they threw sand up in the air. Every morning after the sun came up, they had to train like this for the next 2 hours. Ha! Ha! They continued training. A middle-aged man with thick black hair walked along the front of the training children with a stick in his hand. He saw a 5-year-old looking girl punch out weirdly. He lightly hit her arm and leg and got her to the correct posture. The girl didn't cry out from being hit. She didn't even feel pain. Instead, she smiled wide and thanked him. The old man smiled and walked along. He did the same thing to the various other children as well, none of whom hated him for hitting them. To them, they just didn't feel the pain anymore. After 2 hours of training, he stopped them. "All right, that's enough for today. All of you, go back." "Thank you, Elder," the kids said in unison and left. Only a small kid was remaining. He walked up to the middle-aged man and opened his arms. "Carry me," he said. The middle-aged man smiled and grabbed the little kid. "Grandpa will carry you for today. But you will need to walk on your own starting tomorrow, okay?" he asked. "No, I like it when Grandpa carries me. I want Grandpa to carry me forever," the kid said. "Oh," the man said with a smug look and asked, "so you don't want to become strong like your elder cousin?" "No, I want to be strong," the kid said immediately. "Then you should know that strong men don't ask their grandpas to carry them, you know?" the old man said. "Oh," the kid said and started struggling. "Put me down, Grandpa." I'm not letting you go now. You will have to stay with Grandpa for today," the man said and started walking. "So, how is it? Do you like Grandpa's place?" he asked. The kid thought for a bit and said, "Not really, I like my home better." That hurt Grandpa's heart really badly," the man said with a chuckle. Kids never knew how to be subtle about something. "All right, I will ask your mother to make you your favorite meal in Grandpa's house and you will like me," the man said and walked towards his house. He was beelining to his house when the kid asked him something that made him stop. "Grandpa, is the person from the statue real?" He was always startled when they talked about the statue with him. It was both a reminder of sadness and yet, nostalgia to him. "Of course he is real. Grandpa told you many times, remember?" he asked. "Oh, then is it that man standing over there?" the kid said, pointing to the side. The middle-aged man looked to the side and saw a young man with black hair standing there. He was wearing a gray robe and had skin that made him easily stand out amongst his people. The middle-aged man nearly dropped the kid out of shock. You. The young man smiled with slight tears forming in his eyes and spoke. "Hello, I see." The middle-aged man shuddered. He really did drop the kid this time and walked towards the young man. "Inikaka, is that really you?" he asked. He couldn't believe what he was seeing right now. He looked at the man up and down, and no matter how much he looked exactly the same as the man in his memories. "Of course it's me. Have I changed?" Ning asked as he looked at himself. No, you look exactly the same," Hiesi said in disbelief. Ning looked at Hiesi's neck and said, "I see you've kept the necklace safe." Hiesi touched the stone necklace and said, "It really is you." Hiesi and Ning were now in Hiesi's house. The houses in Clavis were no longer made up of normal mud and stones and instead were built out of wood and metals. Ning looked around and then back at Hiesi, who was still looking at him with awe. Ning couldn't help but sigh when the young child he knew had grown up to become a grandfather. He had even gotten a headache when he tried to check his cultivation base. "I'm really happy you came back, Inikaka," Hiesi said with a smile. Ning smiled as well. "I would have come back earlier had I known you were still alive," Ning said. "Alive? Why would we have died?" Hiesi asked in confusion. "After fighting the serpent, I was asleep for 165 years, so when I woke up I thought you all had died. If I had known how long cultivators lived at that point, I would have probably come back, but I didn't, so I went on with my life. However, I was in a competition around, 6 months ago, I think. There, I met Hijaka," Ning said. "What? You met my grandson?" Hiesi said in surprise. "Yes. He is the one who told me you were alive in the first place," Ning said. "Honestly, when I heard you were alive, I was so happy. Haha, I had even expected to see an old man with gray hair, but here you are. You barely look older than 40, Ning said. Yes. I would have probably looked younger, but it took me a really long time to reach the nascent soul realm, Hiesi said. I knew you were talented, but to reach nascent soul realm before you were 150 years old. People would come to kill you if they ever find out, Ning said. Ah ha ha. Those are all thanks to the cultivation method you gave me. They really helped me and my family get stronger, Haisi said. Oh right, that reminds me, I heard you named your son after myself. Haisi took Ning to the various different places around Clavis. The place had grown to such a size that Ning himself had a hard time keeping track of. The amount of Clavian had increased to such a high number that when Ning first heard it, he thought Haisi got the number wrong. When he asked him to repeat that, he finally understood why this planet had so many people. There were over 1 million Clavians alone by now, all of whom were taught by Haisi and the other kids that were around at his time. Haisi then took Ning to meet his son, who was also called Ning. When the chief of Clavis saw the benefactor that everyone was named after, they were shocked. It didn't take Ning very long to realize that the son wasn't the only person to be named after him. Nong, Nong, Jing, Nin, Maining, etc. Various variations of his name were used to name children around Clavis now. Ning felt a little embarrassed when he heard that. And this is my grandson, Hekti. He's a good lad with a good head on his shoulders. He will surely become someone great in the future, Haisi said. Ning looked at the kid that was trying to hide behind his grandfather's legs. Hey, Hekti. Come here, Ning called him. Hekti surprisingly showed some courage and walked forward. Ning rubbed his head and asked, Do you like books? Hekti didn't know what was going on and shook his head. You don't like books? Ning asked. I can't read, Hekti said. Oh, you will soon learn to read soon. Do you want a book for when you are able to read? He asked. Hekti nodded. Suddenly, white light shined in front of Ning and there were a lot of books in front of Hekti. Hekti's eyes shined as his face showed an expression of shock. How did you make the new books? He asked. Oh, didn't you know? This Inikaka can do a lot of magic, Ning said with a smile. Here, look at these books. Once you can read, you can start reading this book and become very strong, stronger than your grandfather. Haisi looked in surprise. He had been wondering about something for a long time, so he asked, Senior, can this book help one go over nascent soul realm? He asked. Up until now, everywhere he asked and looked, but there just weren't any person or record of anyone going above the nascent soul realm. Ning shook his head. It's impossible to go above the nascent soul realm on this planet. The amount of people living here is so high that the quality of chi has been brought down to almost nothing. As such, no one is able to go above, Ning said. Haisi got a little sad when he heard this. Well, don't worry too much about it. You still will have 1,000 to 2,000 years of lifespan as a chi cultivator. Add in the body cultivation, and you can live for much longer, Ning said. Haisi got a little happier with that but still felt bad about not being able to reach a higher level of cultivation. Ning could think of another way, but that was something not even he was capable at the moment. So, he decided to not talk about it. Leaving Haisi in ignorance was much better than in hope leading to disappointment. Ning stayed in Clavis for the next 2 months. Every morning, after sunrise, he had the people who had just finished their body cultivation hold some metal pipes together and slam them on each other. It didn't do much, but it still helped fill the sound energy he was requiring. As such, in just a little over a month, he doubled his energy cap once again. Now, he could absorb 1.28 billion energy every day. He also got a similar toggle ability just like the heat ignorance or the kinetic ignorance skill. He could now ignore 15% of all sound energy that hit him. There were a lot of cultivation techniques that used sound to attack, and Ning could be safe from them now. He opened his auto buy list and shook his head. He had no idea what he was going to do now. There was simply too much energy required to put the things there. Worst of all, he couldn't even increase his energy cap, as one of the requirements to increase the cap was to spend energy that nearly cost the same as all of the things in the auto buy list combined. So expensive, he sighed again as he looked at the list. Permanent teleportation 10 billion, intermediate all language 88 billion. 10 drops of true dragon's essence 149 billion, intermediate cultivation knowledge 55.6 billion. Perfect body 947 trillion, energy perfect talent 235 trillion energy. After coming back from Vilmore, Ning had decided to go all out on his body and talents. He had realized how hard it was to make the body acclimate each time to different energy types, so the first thing he did was to add every single acclimated type body into the body specification. Then he made the body itself very, very durable, much more so than the black marble he had with him. He also removed the spiritual root purchase from the list since that only made sense for the world with chi. He instead decided that when he had the body, he would spend some time gathering energy for everything required in every world. For the other things, he needed knowledge and language, so he added them as well. Also, asking the system to teleport him every time was getting tedious, and he wanted to do that himself. Adding on the true dragon's blood essence that he had promised Blue, there was a lot of time he was going to have to spend just collecting the energy. Ning couldn't help but sigh once more. It's like the universe is coming together to tell me to stop moving around so much and settle down somewhere. Ning got ready to leave. He had been with Hi-C for the last 2 months, and it was reminiscing about the times, but that wasn't all they could do. Ning wanted to settle down somewhere, and Clavis just didn't feel like the place. He was treated way too well, almost too well, and that made him uncomfortable. Living with people who saw him as nothing less than a god was not something he liked, so he decided to leave Clavis. "Are you sure you won't stay around for a little longer, Inikaka?" Hi-C asked. "No, I've made up my mind. I want to go out and settle down somewhere. I have a lot of free time ahead of me that is nothing more than just me sitting around," Ning said. "Does it have something to do with the energy gathering thing you told me about?" Hi-C asked. Ning had fully disclosed everything about him. Hi-C was his oldest friend here and he didn't want to hide anything from him. "Yes, sort of," Ning said. "I need to gather around 2.3 quadrillion energy to get everything I want to buy. I can cheap out and buy the things one at a time, but I don't feel like doing that," Ning said. "Although, I can just get rid of that 1 quadrillion energy that the system wants as part of revealing the next energy," Ning thought. "Oh, so, I don't know whether that is a lot or not. How long will that take you to gather?" Hi-C asked. Ning gave a dry laugh and said, "Around 2,800 years for the 1.3 quadrillion energy." What? Hi-C's eyes went wide. He couldn't believe the number of years he had just heard. I will be dead by then of old age. Unless Hi-C could somehow get a better body cultivation technique, he would likely die before that time period was over. Hi-C thought for a bit and asked, "Don't you go to sleep or something? Like that thing where your mind shuts off you said?" Ning shook his head. "I can't do that this time. First of all, gaining 1.28 billion energy a day is already hard enough. Even gaining 200 million energy naturally every day is pretty much impossible. Not to mention I will need others' help usually. The only way for me to even get them without any help is through collecting the chi. If chi is not available, then I can't collect anything. I could try going to extreme locations like volcanoes or places like the Northern Wormhole, but I won't always remain there. When I overexerted my mental power with the demon serpent, I was gone for only 165 years, but when I woke up, I had 0 energy. The body I have degrades over time, people find it, destroy it. When that happens, I lose energy. So I can't go without opening my eyes," Ning said. Hi-C didn't understand what he was really talking about but could see that Ning really had no choice. "Then, I guess you have no choice but to settle down somewhere. Haha, maybe you can find yourself a wife too. Just look at me. I would be absolutely miserable if I didn't have my wife and my children to keep company. You should find someone for yourself too," Hi-C said. Ning got lost in his own head as he started thinking about what Hi-C had just said. "A wife, huh? That wouldn't be so bad. However, I'm not sure I can even have one. Having someone to live life with would be good, but I don't want to lose them. I'm immortal, so if I lose someone, the loss will stay with me for eternity." Hi-C could understand the sentiment, but not the magnitude of it. Not even Ning himself could understand the magnitude of it. Also, he said, "Children, can I even have children? I'm energy," Ning thought. Yes. Procreation is possible as long as the body you create is compatible with the other species. Species? So if I had a beast body, I could procreate with a beast as well? Ning asked. Yes, Ning thought for a moment and shuddered. Yuck, no. So, where will you go? Have you thought of someplace? Hi-C asked. Actually, I have. But that will have to wait a while longer. I'm not really in a hurry to settle down right now. I will have to take a few detours before that, Ning said. Oh, where are you going first? Hi-C asked. Ning thought for a second and said, my disciple. Yes, I will go to her first. Your disciple? Hi-C asked. Yes. Well, I could technically call you one as well, but I didn't teach you as much as I taught her. She's a good kid and will make it big someday, Ning said. I see. I can't wait to hear her name ring across the world, Hi-C said. Ning nodded and took out a piece of paper before handing it to Hi-C. Haisi looked at the paper and asked, "A talisman?" "Yes, keep that. If you ever want to communicate with me, you can use that talisman to talk. I will get the message directly," Ning said. "Whoa, this is quite good," Haisi said. "Yes," Ning said with a smile. "Let me know if you ever want something. I'm just one teleport away." "Yes, Inikaka. You let me know too if you ever require my help, okay?" Haisi said. "And come here once in a while to meet. You can teleport, so it should be easy for you." "Haha, sure. Alright, I'm leaving now, goodbye Haisi." "Have a good time Inikaka. Don't worry too much." Haisi gave him a knowing nod. He knew how much his Inikaka worried about other people. Ning smiled and just waved his hand. Unlike last time, when Ning was taken away abruptly and couldn't say his goodbyes, Ning felt a sense of relief when he got to say goodbye to Haisi this time. "Let's go see what the Starsight bunch are like," he thought and teleported. Ning appeared inside the city of Starsight. He looked around and was truly shocked at how desolate it was. He had left the city after the tragedy that happened 2 years ago but didn't realize how bad the problem was. Senior Kazir did say something about everyone leaving this place. So, I guess it's all empty now, huh? He thought as he walked around the city. As he expected, nothing was around. Most of the houses were destroyed in the battle, the ones that remained were all empty. People had left with all of the items with them and gone to the other cities nearby. He walked over T0, the pure cleansing sect, and saw the torn down buildings. The Physicians' Guild was also all but destroyed. All that remained was a husk of its former self. Ning was walking through the empty city when suddenly he heard a noise. He sent his divine sense and saw that there was a beast there. What's a beast doing here? He wondered and walked forward. The beast was simply sleeping, but when it sensed Ning coming towards it, it got up and got on guard. It's just sleeping, huh? Ning thought and ignored it and walked forward. He went to the Eagle sect and saw that nothing there remained. It had either been pillaged or destroyed in rage. Ning shook his head and walked outside the southern gate and saw that the forest had grown out of control. Soon, the forest will grow and take over the city. I guess at that point the beasts will get strong as well since the humans are no longer there to keep them under control. Ning chuckled a little. It's all going back to how it started, he thought, and decided to leave. He disappeared once more and appeared in a dark room. "Ah! Who goes there?" somebody screamed. Ning didn't speak and waited for the person to see him. "Master?" The girl seemed surprised when she saw him. "Hello, Anya," Ning said. "Master, you're back." She ran up and hugged Ning. "Whoa, you're strong now." "Very strong," Ning said. After nearly 2 years of cultivating and learning, she had grown a lot and was becoming a fine lady. "Look at you, so big. And I didn't even go away for long," Ning said. Anya had started crying by now. She had missed him dearly and believed that he would never return despite him telling her he would come back. "Don't cry," he said as he stroked her back, which was covered with her long hair. Ning checked her cultivation and was quite surprised that she had grown to the 9th realm of chi condensation. She was just a step away from foundation establishment. Better than that, however, she was at the 10th level of body cultivation. Meaning, her physical strength was equal to that of a 1st realm foundation establishment cultivator. "You really did not waste much time and diligently cultivated, didn't you?" Ning asked. "Of course. You told me to," Anya said. Ning and Anya sat down and talked for a bit. Ning decided to stay here for a week or two, see how things had become, if they had changed or not. Anya's life had become very different after joining the Red Tiger sect. Before, she had to cut her hair and dress up as a boy so that she could gather what little money she had to heal her father. However, once Ning solved that problem and taught her how to cultivate and heal, she had grown at a very excellent rate. After joining the Red Tiger sect, all the elders were shocked at her cultivation talent, and now she was basically the princess of the sect. The sect had also had changes in the time that Ning was away. Red Tiger sect had now joined with the Blue Dragon sect and was called the Purple Beast sect. The two sect masters apparently couldn't decide on whether to call it Tiger Dragon or Dragon Tiger, so they decided to just go with beasts. Still, the chi cultivators and the body cultivators were kept separately. That was until the elite sect was finished building that would be located on the third eye of the skull. They had apparently decided to cut a bit of the forest and make another sect there where only the elites from the other two could join. The cultivation technique that Ning had given them had become a staple here, and people were quickly getting stronger. That, however, still couldn't keep up with Anya's speed of cultivation, which was after spending half of her time in learning the medicines and healing knowledge Ning had left her. "So, how good of a doctor are you now?" Ning asked. "I think I'm good. You'll have to see for yourself," Anya said. "Actually, there is one today. You can come to see me treat patients in the market." "Today? I don't really want to be seen by other people. I was only wishing to meet you and stay hidden," Ning said. "Oh, then you can't come to see me work?" Anya said dejectedly. She was really excited to show Ning her progress, but now it seemed she wouldn't be able to. "Hey, I never said I can't. I just said that I won't be seen," Ning said. Suddenly, he took out a piece of jewelry from his storage space and handed it to Anya. "Wear this," he said. Anya looked down at the jewelry in her hand and smiled. It was a thin black rope with a metal trinket that had a gem attached to it. It didn't stand out as anything expensive, but Anya liked it. "Thank you, Moss." She looked up at Ning, but he was no longer there. She was a little surprised and sad. "Did Master leave?" "No, I'm right here." Ning's voice came out from the necklace. "Ah, Master. What? Why is your voice coming from the necklace? Are you okay? Are you stuck in some sort of storage space?" she asked with worry. "No, I'm fine. I guess I will have to explain to you too." After Ning explained everything 5 times, and Anya took it in with no understanding for the first and gave up on the 5th, they both left for the marketplace. "So, you are a nascent soul?" Anya asked. "No, I'm just a consciousness that can inhabit other things," Ning said. "Like a nascent soul," Anya said. "Let's just say I am similar to a nascent soul but am not one," Ning said. "Okay," Anya said. "How long can you stay here?" "As long as I want," Ning said. "And your body? Won't it rot, or cause other problems?" Anya asked. "I've stored it in my storage. It had time frozen so it will stay there fine for a while," Ning said. Can I get one too? That system thing sounds fun," Anya asked. "No, you need to find a black box that the system comes in with to become one. Even then, you likely won't get one," Ning said. Ning had asked the system a bit more about the process of how systems were made. Most of the time, the answer he got was that the system didn't know. The creator only passed it enough information to know what its purpose was. According to the system, there were 2 criteria when searching for a potential host. The first was that the host had a terrible life and didn't get to live a good life. That was the reason Ning was given the system in the first place. However, there was another reason as well. But the creator hadn't let the system know what the reason was, only that he had told them that it was a stupid criterion and had apparently laughed every time the second criteria had come up. From this, Ning came to understand 2 things. First, he didn't need to worry about the criteria much. He probably had something stupid happen in his life or had done something stupid himself which made him a potential candidate. The second thing was that the creator laughed. Ning didn't know if this meant that the creator was a human or a god, but they definitely had some form of emotion, and that was surprising to him. "That sucks. I wanted to be like you and follow you around if possible," Anya said. Ning sighed internally. It was likely that similar to Hi-C, even Anya wouldn't live to be old enough to see him leave the planet for good. He was starting to feel bad right now. "Miss Anya, come. We will be late," a guard of Anya quickly beckoned her. "Coming," Anya said and walked behind him. Along the way to the gate, there were many disciples that greeted her and she greeted them back. She was really popular amongst the disciples here and that was clear to see. In less than 15 minutes, Anya and her bodyguard reached the building where she was going to treat the other patients. "Oh, the goddess is here everyone," people shouted. Ning was a little surprised when he heard the various people call her goddess. Is she that good now? He wondered. There must be a reason why people would start calling a doctor the goddess of medicine. "Sister, you are finally here. Why are you so late?" A 9-year-old boy came up to Anya. "I'm on time. I still have 5 minutes," she said. Yes, come fast." The boy took her in. Ning smiled inside the necklace when he saw Anya's little brother had also grown up. Not only that, Ning quickly checked him and realized that he was also a cultivator. "Anya, did you give the books to your brother too?" Ning asked. "Yes, Master. Was I wrong to do that?" she asked. No, it's fine. I was just asking," Ning said. He was happy to see that both the brother and sister were doing fine. Anya quickly went inside and soon started her treatment of the people. There was a long line of people waiting to be treated and they all were very happy to see her be the one treating. In fact, some people had delayed their treatment just to do it with her. Anya was very fast in her work and treated people quickly. Her brother was also quite knowledgeable about different stuff and helped her a few times. Ning was surprised when he saw how well coordinated the brother-sister duo was. They were much better than when it was just Ning doing the work by himself. They're certainly doing great work, Ning thought. Anya was at most a slight second slower than Ning at diagnosing the patients. That was something that surprised him a lot. He had extremely great mental strength and had an eidetic memory, and yet the little girl was giving him a run for his money when it came to understanding the patient's problem. She really didn't waste her time with anything and just spent it cultivating and learning the medicine, didn't she? Ning thought. He could understand why the people were starting to call her the goddess of medicine. She really was just that when it came to treating people. If nothing bad ever happens, she will grow up to be a strong force in the cultivation world, Ning thought. Not only her, but even her brother would also become strong and knowledgeable in medicine. At that moment, the sister-brother duo would be unstoppable when it came to treating people. I should dump every knowledge I have to them, Ning thought. Anya treated the various people for a whole day, and by the time the sun had set, everyone who had arrived had been healed. Anya stretched when she realized everyone was treated. Good work everyone, she said and stood up. Let's go back to the sect. Anya, her brother, and the bodyguard all went back to the sect under the moonlight. Anya's brother separated from them at the gate and walked towards a location that was for the disciple's family. He was still not old enough to be of age to enter the sect yet. He would be next year, however, and he couldn't wait for that. Anya returned back to her room. It was time to cultivate, but she couldn't. So, instead, she ended up wasting her entire night talking with Ning. Ning quite liked talking with her too, so he talked until the sun came back. Ning spent the next month or two teaching Anya the many new things that came with a higher level of knowledge books. He taught what he could to her that was still within an energy limit. Unfortunately, it wasn't a lot. He couldn't buy the omniscient levels of those knowledge he had as they cost extremely high, so he was forced to give her either intermediate or advanced. It wasn't just medicinal books that he gave her, he also gave her the book on cultivation so that she could learn very many things that would otherwise take her a lifetime. For the next 2 months, he saw her slowly grow as a cultivator and as a doctor. She was rapidly improving even as he taught her. And after a series of late-night cultivation, she reached the foundation establishment realm. Today was another day of treatment for the town folks. So, she was getting ready to leave. Her bodyguard appeared once again to take her. Her treatment days were once a week or once every 2 weeks depending on her mood. She liked treating others, but sometimes, she just wanted to stay inside and study. Today, she had decided to leave and help some people. She walked to the front gate with her bodyguard and was quite surprised when she saw not a lot of people inside the sect. What's going on, Vigo? Where are the people? She asked. Her bodyguard responded, the disciples have all gone to the new sect location. It seems we will have a falling out soon. What? Falling out? Are we fighting amongst each other? Anya's voice went an octave or two higher when she heard that. No, miss. Not amongst ourselves, but with the people that came a week ago, Vigo said. A week ago? Anya asked in confusion. Don't you know? It was quite a topic around here. Did you lock yourself in your room again? Vigo asked. Tee. Anya gave an embarrassed smile. Sigh, yes. A week ago, people came for some reason, and the elders were a little scared. We might have a falling out with them if the diplomatic relations talk today doesn't go the way we want it to, Vigo said. Oh, Anya said. They soon reached the hospital building and Anya started treating the people while her brother helped her. They treated people for over 10 hours and only stopped when the sun went down. Good job everyone. Let's go back, Anya said and returned. The brother left the group and went back to his staying area. Anya and Vigo went back to the sect. Surprisingly, even though it was evening time, there were not that many disciples on the sect ground. Is the diplomatic talk still going on? Ning whispered quietly. Anya repeated the question so that Vigo could hear it too. I think so, miss. However, you shouldn't worry about it much. You can just go back to your room and focus on cultivation, Vigo said. No, I am a disciple of this sect too. I want to see what is going on, Anya said and walked back out. He made her way to the new sect ground despite Vigo's constant insistence on them returning back. Anya arrived at the scene and saw quite a few people who wore red and blue. They were all gathered around something. Anya forced her way in. People got angry when they felt someone pushing through, but when they saw who it was, they easily let her go forward. When Anya arrived at the front, Ning saw 2 groups of people sitting on either side of a circle. They were all sitting in a lotus formation on the ground, or rather floating just above the ground. What's going on? Anya asked to her side. Those people insist on bringing somebody from the sect to them, and if we don't do it in the next 2 days, they will attack the sect. What? Anya said in surprise. The sect masters didn't say anything. They keep insisting that they won't and will rather fight them, the person said. Ning couldn't help but sigh inside. The people who were making the demands were wearing orange robes that were very recognizable to anyone that went to the triennial tournaments. Ah, it's these guys, Ning said. Huh? Who are they? Anya asked. They're from the Dazzling sect. They're probably here after me, Ning said. Huh? Why? Anya asked. I killed their sect leader, Ning said with a chuckle. Ning looked around and said something to Anya. Anya hesitated for a bit after listening to what Ning had said, but decided to do it in the end. She crossed the enclosure and walked inside the area. The elders and sect leaders frowned for a moment, but when they saw that it was Anya, their expression changed from frowning to worry. Anya, you shouldn't be here. Go back, Gion said. Anya, why are you here? Prezzo asked. Yelka stood up and walked to Anya. Anya, it's not a place you should be in. Go back. It's okay, master, sect leaders, Anya said. The group of people sitting on the opposite end didn't care for the commotion initially, but when they saw the elders care, they got curious. When they checked Anya, they understood the reason for their care. Oh my god. Such a young girl and already at Foundation Establishment realm, one of the elders said. That is the most talented individual I have ever seen, another elder said. No wonder they didn't let us search their sect. They were hiding someone like this, another person said. Anya suddenly turned to them and pointed at the group of disciples behind the elders from the Dazzling sect. She then spoke, you people were spared that day, and allowed to return home alive. If you don't accept, you will have to face that same fate your sect leader and his disciple did. The people didn't understand what the little girl was trying to say, but when the 14 or so disciples heard Anya, they started getting scared. It was then Anya said something that totally terrified them. If you guys won't leave now, then I will take you someplace away with me, just like Malice and Guy. That child, how does she know what happened to our sect leader? The elders were surprised. A man suddenly turned towards him. Previous sect leader, the elder corrected himself. The culprit must be hidden here. That child heard about our previous sect leader from him, the other elder said. Elders, maybe we should return. As we said, he should have some teleportation device. Besides, it was master in the wrong that time. Famir, who was standing behind them, spoke. Ning was a little surprised to see him there, and even more surprised to see him take his side. That sect is not fully unredeemable, he thought. Tisk. You are a coward, Farron. We made the right choice to simply make you a small-time elder. If we gave you any other position, you would have taken the sect to the dust, a person at the front spoke. Yes, you are correct, sect leader, other elders backed him up. The new sect leader got a proud face as they all called him by what he was now. Jan, go and get that girl, he said. Yes, master. Jan walked forward to get Anya. What should I do? Anya got a little flustered. She had never been in this situation before. Calm down and listen to me closely, he said. Are you okay with seeing blood? He asked. Of course, she answered. She was a doctor. Standing at the sight of blood was a job requisite. How about death? He asked. I am used to seeing it, Anya said with a somber voice. All right. Today you are going to do what every cultivator will need to learn to do in their life. I'm going to teach you how to kill, Ning said. But master, I can't. Calm down and listen. That was one of the men that beat me while I was injured. You don't have to kill him if you don't. He hurt you. Anya's expression suddenly changed. Jan was right in front of Anya now. The other elders were coming to interfere, but the elders from the Dazzling sect, who were stronger, were interfering with their interference, so they couldn't interfere in time. Just then, Anya dashed forward. Her combined strength of 11th level of body cultivation and first realm of Foundation Establishment realm was very strong. Jan was surprised, but he couldn't avoid it in time. She punched out as hard as she could and accurately hit Jan right in the temple. An audible crack could be heard and Jan was piled down into the ground, unconscious in a single hit. As soon as he was down, Anya started punching him more and more. Soon, his entire face was deformed. However, that was the least of his worries. Actually, Jan no longer had to worry about anything in the world, ever. The elders and disciples on both sides were shocked as a girl half his age just beat the sect leader's disciple to dare. "You dare?" The sect leader angrily screamed and jumped towards Anya. "Let's stop this farce." The sect leader was blown back and Ning's body appeared in front of everyone. "Wah! Ghost!" "How?" people everywhere exclaimed. Only after a few seconds did the people stop talking and the disciples and elders saw him. "Dr. Ning? It's Dr. Ning." Both Yelka and Gion were surprised. "Sect leader. That's him. That's the man who disappeared with previous sect leader Malice," a disciple screamed. The sect leader stood up straight and looked at Ning with daggers in his eyes. He then saw his disciple dead at the little girl's feet and felt both shame and anger at the fact that he had been killed by a mere girl. "Anya, go stay with the elders for now," Ning said. "Yes, master," she said and walked away. "Anya, are you all right?" The other elders immediately took her and started checking if she was hurt anywhere. Ning smiled when he saw that she was truly loved here. "Farron. No, you're useless." "You?" The sect leader pointed to another disciple and asked, "Confirm his words, is this really him?" "Yes, sect leader. He's the man that won the triennial tournament and then disappeared with the previous sect leader," the disciple confirmed it. "So it is you," he said. "All right, let's not waste time. You clearly don't care for Malice, which means you are here for one of three reasons. You either want to learn how I teleport so easily, you either want Angel's Touch, or you want my mid-grade spirit artifact. So, which one is it?" Ning asked. I don't need your fruit, and I certainly don't need your spear. I have one myself," he said as he took out the blue spear that Ning bought that Farron got later on. "Oh, that's my spear," Ning said. "I bought that one, although I kinda left Farron to have it since I got a new one." He suddenly took out his own identical but clearly better spear. The sect leader's face showed signs of drooling, but he quickly controlled himself. I don't care about these materialistic items. Tell me what you did to the sect leader," he shouted while flaring out his 8th Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivation Base. "Well, since you insist." Ning suddenly disappeared and appeared next to the new sect leader. He then disappeared again with the sect leader and appeared once more. Only this time, the sect leader was no longer with him. "What? Where's the sect leader?" The elders started getting scared. "Don't bother thinking about him. His corpse, if you can even call it that, lays at the same place where your previous sect master's lies. That's what you get for messing with me." Ning then took out a blue spear and tossed it towards Farron. Farron caught the spear and immediately got shocked. This is not mine," he said. "Take that and become the sect leader. Kill who you need to, and save who you must. Be righteous and make a better name for the Dazzling sect. Now leave," Ning ordered. The remaining elders weren't strong enough to fight the two sects, so they left immediately. Farron gave Ning a deep bow and then he left too. "Dr. Ning, you came back?" Yelka asked. "Just for a little while. I came to check on my disciple and will leave soon," Ning said. The crowd dispersed and Ning stayed in the new building sect with the sect leaders. He was asked a lot of questions, but he didn't answer any. He just changed the subject every time. The sect leaders understood that he didn't want to answer, so they didn't ask many personal questions either. Once the sun came back up, he disappeared. He didn't want to do a lot of work, so he just stayed in Anya's necklace. He decided to pass some time with Anya before moving on. He didn't want to miss the prime growing age of Anya. He changed to pearl on her necklace to the marble that he had made. Then, he asked her to make the disciples hit the necklace every day. "Make sure not to repeat the same person twice, okay? Only once," he explained. "I understand, master," Anya said. He then asked the system, "Is it possible for you to awaken me when Anya is calling for me or the cap isn't filed for 5 hours?" "Yes. Ask me if you need help. Just call for me and I will come back. I need to save some time, it's too boring otherwise," Ning said. "I understand, master, you just go to sleep," Anya said. Ning then put 4 criteria on the system for waking him up. The first was if Anya or High C ever called hi. The second was if he didn't fill the energy cap for 5 hours after it was online. Third was if Anya or the sect was ever in danger. The final one was to wake him up every 3 months if none of the first 3 ever took place. Once he did that, years passed by in the blink of an eye. Ning opened his eyes and felt the impressively strong wind on his face, or rather the front of the black indestructible marble. "The sea? Where are we going?" he asked. "The hub island," a mature voice said. The speaker was a tall woman, with long flowing hair and fair skin. The stark purple color of the robe she was wearing made it stand out amongst the white ship she was riding on. "Has it been 3 months?" he asked. "Oh, no, I called you. I thought you might have wanted to see this," the woman said. "Well, I didn't need to, but now that I am going to enjoy this," Ning said. "Is it the tournament soon?" "Yeah, but I don't know what to do. You said the secret realm won't accept me, right?" she asked. "Haha, don't worry about that. I will just hide your cultivation base down to the 5th realm of the Foundation Establishment realm. That should be plenty," Ning said. "I won't disappoint you, Master," she said. "You couldn't even if you tried," Ning said. Over the last couple of years, Anya had grown extremely fast, so much so that Ning was starting to worry for her the same fate as Hai-Si. However, after talking with the system, he had come to learn that while these folks would stop at the peak of the nascent soul realm, the body cultivation, however, would keep them going forever. They would however need a far better body cultivation technique at a higher level. Ning had checked it out, and it really did cost nearly 50 trillion. That too wasn't the best body cultivation technique. The system however cautioned against using that body cultivation technique without a strong body, to begin with, as that would destroy the body of anyone normal. "I will give it to them once they're strong enough to handle it," Ning thought. They soon reached the island and prepared. As promised, Ning helped her with reigning in her cultivation base. The next week of the tournament went by at a blistering speed. Anya was already strong enough to sweep through the entire secret realm and defeat any and all opponents. The round matches completed much fast. Not only that, even her brother, who was just a few realms weaker than her, was also strong enough to be one of the strongest in the Scattered Isles. Ning saw Farron from afar and how much the Dazzling sect was, and was happy at the fact that the sect was doing quite well. As for the Purple Beast sect, it was one of, if not the strongest sect in the area. Thanks to the cultivation technique Ning had given them before he left the first time, the overall cultivation level of the entire sect had gone up by a massive amount. The sect leaders themselves had already entered the Golden Core realm and were one of the strongest individuals around. Once the tournament was over and they won, Anya let the elders know about her intentions to leave and go to a place with stronger people. The elders were reluctant, but they couldn't stop here. In the end, they let her leave. "So, where should we go next?" Anya asked. "Where do you want to go?" Ning asked back. She amused. "Is there any place that's popular?" "Anywhere really is fine," she said. "Well, come to think of it, there was in fact a place that Hijaka told me. Let's see, where is it?" "Ah yes, 7 Lights City. Why don't you go there?" Ning said. "Sure," Anya said. "Do you want to take a short way there or the long way?" Ning asked. "I'm only 21 years old, I'm in no hurry at all. Let's just take the scenic route," Anya said. "All right, get on the ferry then," Ning said. Anya quickly found a ferry on the northern part of the hub island. She was a little sad leaving her brother and father behind, but such was the life of a cultivator. One could either choose happiness or strength. It was very rarely possible for a cultivator to find both at the same time. The only way one could possibly have these things both ways when one was at the peak of strength with nothing more to achieve. At that time, all they could be was happy. Anya smiled as the breeze hit her beautiful face. By now, Ning was back into his original body and had a small black bird perched on his shoulders. He sat beside Anya and sighed a little as he realized how much the difference in their cultivation had grown. "How far away are you from breaking through?" Ning asked. "I can break through anytime I want to, Master. But I thought you told me to wait a little longer so that I could have the strongest foundation before breaking through," she said. "Yes, but that was 3 months ago. You have cultivated for long enough and can break through if you want," Ning said. "Is that so? Then I shall do it right now," Anya said. "Go ahead," Ning said. "I will stand guard." Anya nodded and closed her eyes while she was still in the middle of the deck. Suddenly, the chi around her got agitated and started moving away from her, as if they were expanding. When they expanded to the point that they couldn't move any further, a small muffled explosion sounded and they all dispersed away. However, they soon lost their speed and came to a halt. Suddenly, they reversed and flew back to Anya as she devoured all the chi in the area and started forming her golden core. The other people on the deck were surprised and turned around to look at her. A sea monster suddenly jumped up from the sea, sending up water up to a couple of 100 meters up. The people who were on the ship were startled and started screaming as they ran away from the deck. "Raa!" the monster shouted. "Shut up," Ning said. but the monster heeded no caution against a man who was barely in the Fourth Realm Foundation establishment. As the water slid past its body, the monster turned out to be a large worm-like creature with incredibly strong scales. Ning quickly checked its cultivation base, and it turned out that the monster was in the first Golden Core realm. It must have been threatened by Anya's aura and thought we came here to fight for its territory, Ning thought. The people who were supposed to be guarding the ship against monster attacks were scared beyond belief, as they had never seen a monster in the Golden Core realm around here. Anya was still in the process of forming her core, so Ning couldn't let the monster disturb her at this moment. "Sigh, we are not here to fight you. Just go away and we will be on our way," Ning spoke to the waterworm. The waterworm didn't have any eyes, as its face was just a massive open mouth with teeth sticking out from all over it. The millions of teeth at the worm's mouth clattered as it spoke. "I don't believe you. Sigh, do you really want to die? Just go away," Ning said. Listening to Ning's words, the worm started laughing. The many teeth clattered once more and made horrifying screeching sounds as the teeth scratched on each other. "Ha ha ha, puny human. You cannot kill me," it spoke with utmost amusement. "I will eliminate my threat. I will eat that human and become stronger," it exclaimed. Ning sighed once more and shook his head at the worm's stupidity. "Very well then, you chose this death yourself," Ning said. The worm suddenly moved towards Anya. Anya wasn't the only one in danger, as the giant worm crushing down on her would likely capsize the boat completely. "Kill him," Ning ordered. Suddenly, Knight, who was calmly perched upon his shoulder, asleep, opened his eyes. The pitch-black eyes were like a deep abyss where one couldn't see its true depth. The world seemed to lose its light and color as Knight woke up. Knight slowly unfurled his pitch-black wings, unfazed by the falling worm on top of the boat. He then stood up on Ning's shoulders and flapped his wings. A massive gust of air pushed Ning back as Knight disappeared in the dimming light. The next thing anyone saw was a massive black slice going through the worm and the worm being cut in half. Despite its incredibly tough scales, despite its cultivation base, and despite its arrogance just a few moments earlier, the worm was cleanly decapitated by Knight. Knight suddenly changed directions and returned back in front of the worm, where now its two dead halves were falling on the boat. He then flapped his wings once again as feathers shot out of his wings and struck the worm's body. Suddenly, black flames with a hint of white light on them burst out from the feathers. The fire was so hot that Ning could feel the heat from all the way where he was. Knight then flapped his wings again. This time, instead of the feathers being shot out, a massive gust of wind suddenly blew out the fire that was burning. People expected charred remains of the worm to drop down onto the ferry. However, when the flames disappeared, there was nothing there. Not even ash fell from the sky. The body of the beast had just disappeared completely, with not even a hint that the worm was ever there. The massive body of Knight moved once again and appeared on top of Ning's shoulder as a small bird once again. People watched in horror as they realized that this bird was the one responsible for killing the Golden Core realm monster right now. "You really like showing off, don't you?" Ning asked with a chuckle. "I was merely doing what you asked," Knight said. Of his three beasts, Knight was the only one Ning hadn't dominated using supreme dominance, so he couldn't tell what Knight was feeling. However, if Ning had to guess, he would say that Knight was really smug right now. "You did well. Here," Ning said as he presented a handful of snakeskins to Knight, his favorite food. Knight ate without any restraints and Ning focused back on Anya. Soon, Anya was done forming her core and she was safely in the Golden Core realm. A merchant caravan scuttled along a rocky road at night. The horse-drawn carriages were being dragged across a forest in the moonlight. At the final carriage were two people sitting side by side facing the opposite side from where the caravan was moving. They rocked their feet back and forth as they watched the trees move on either side of them. "I don't want this to end," the girl said as she leaned on the shoulder of the man next to her. She stroked the little beetle that was on her lap. The man next to her had a little bird sleeping on his shoulder. He looked towards the girl and sighed as he said, "I want to stay around and help you too, but all good things must come to an end." He brought his hand to her hair and stroked it gently. He was a little disappointed that it was coming to an end too. It had been 2 months since Anya broke through to the Golden Core realm, and that was at the age of 21. She still looked like an 18-year-old girl, so it was unlikely she would look old in all of her lifetime. Thus, Ning had advised her to take life slowly. It was about the journey before the destination. In addition to that, Anya was starting to get very reliant on Ning and he didn't like that. He didn't want his student to become someone incapable of standing on her own feet. So, after some thought, he had decided to leave her now. He wasn't sure how soon it would be, but it was going to be very soon. You can just stay and watch, I won't ask anything from you, Anya said. She was starting to tear up now. If someone saw a golden core cultivator being this vulnerable in front of a foundation establishment cultivator, they would surely question their eyes. Ning didn't speak for a while and just watched the moon in the sky. After a while, he finally spoke. You have your adventures to look forward to, and I have mine, he said. The world is vast and I want to look at everything. Did you know that this planet has over 2.5 trillion people living here? That's insane. In comparison, the people I've interacted with are nearly negligible. The places I've been to are negligible. There are so many places I can go to, find so many different people. I want to do that. I want to see this world. Once I'm bored, I might consider settling down somewhere. I wonder which continent I will settle down in, Ning said. His eyes shone with expectations and desires. Anya saw it clearly and realized that keeping her master only for herself was the cruelest thing she could do to him. So, she wiped away her tears and said, "All right. I won't ask you to stay for long. Just a couple of weeks more. Stay with me until I get a foothold in this city." Ning smiled and patted her head. It wasn't like he didn't understand what it was she really wanted, but that wouldn't happen no matter how she felt about him. He could only ever see her as a little girl that he decided to teach. The night was long, but like all things, it too ended. The sun rose as the caravan got out of the forest into an open area. "We're here," Ning said and dropped out of the moving carriage. Anya followed suit and jumped out as well. She looked at the surroundings and could see nothing but open land. Ning pointed behind her and she turned around. In front of them was a massive city that was built around a small mountain range. There were 7 mountain ranges from what Ning could see on the map, but he didn't know much else aside from that. He could blurt out the physical dimensions of the mountains, but not who stayed there. However, he enjoyed the mystery. Finding that out in of itself was an adventure he liked. There was a massive wall that encircled the entire city, which encircled the 7 mountains. "There you go, that's the 7 Lights City," Ning said. "Wow, that looks beautiful," Anya said as she looked at the city. The city was multicolored in the truest sense of the word. The outer walls, the plants, even the mountain, everything in the city was colored one of 7 colors. They were white, black, red, blue, yellow, green, and brown. Segments of the walls were these colors, that matched the mountain they were facing. The plants were naturally different colored, and probably had nothing to do with the theme of the city. However, the entire 7 mountains were riddled with buildings and plants that were all a specific color, and that couldn't be chalked up to a coincidence. Ning was as in awe as the person next to him. "Let's go in and find out more," Ning said and walked in. Despite being a cultivator, they had to walk through the gate as flying seemed to be not allowed in the city like every city ever. Ning walked in with Anya and looked around the city for someplace to either stay or to learn something. He didn't do anything, however. He made Anya do the searching and followed behind her. It didn't take long for Anya to find an information center where one could buy intelligence on different things using spirit stones as a currency. She learned about the city she was in and quickly found a place she could open up a small hospital for herself where she could heal people. Within a few days, her reputation grew exponentially as people learned about a beautiful girl giving treatments for quite a cheap price. Ning smiled at her success and waited a few more days to make sure the other people didn't try to harm her. Once he saw that she had no problem living on her own, he decided to leave. "Take this. This is a talisman that will help you communicate with me," Ning said. "Call me if you ever need my help or just want to talk to me." Anya had her eyes filled to the brim with tears. "I will miss you, Master," she said and gave him a hug. "I will miss you too," he said and hugged her back. Anya let him go and asked, "Where will you go now?" "I think I will go meet an old friend. Goodbye, Anya," Ning said with a face full of nostalgia. Seeing that face, Anya didn't have the heart to stop him anymore. "Goodbye, Master," she properly sent him away. Ning smiled back at her and nodded as he said, "Do well, Anya, make me proud." Then he disappeared. Anya stayed in the room crying for the whole day as a void in her heart was suddenly formed due to Ning's absence. He had been with her for nearly 8 years now, and suddenly leaving just like that left her as if she just lost a piece of herself. She cried until nightfall and then fell asleep. The next day, she woke up feeling sad but quickly made a resolute stance to get strong and find her master back. So, she took out the new books Ning had given her the day before. She opened them and started learning them. The books were about alchemy. The people in the northern continent were used to eating pills for anything and everything, unlike the folks from the scattered isles who were too poor to afford it. She diligently learned, and within a month, she was able to successfully make simple pills. Within a year, she was getting famous as one of the most promising up-and-coming individuals in the field of alchemy. One day, a man came up to her and invited her to Woodlight Mountain, one of the 7 light mountains of the 7 Lights sect. They were people who dealt with alchemy and other forms of professions that dealt with plants and herbs. She readily accepted the offer and became a disciple of one of the lights. From there on, her success only grew exponentially. Soon, her name rung throughout the northern continent as one of the best healer and alchemist of the land. And it was all thanks to the few books Ning had given her, because he felt like it. Anya returned back to the Deep Skull Island during the final days of her father. She met with the sect masters and fellow disciples who welcomed her with open arms. It had been many years and her father was just too old. Had he been a cultivator, he could have enjoyed life a little longer. But, since he was a mere mortal, he only had so many years to live, and he had lived them all. After she buried her father, Anya brought over her brother to the 7 Lights sect, where he too started gaining success. Soon after, Anya found someone she would later call the love of her life. Her childish infatuation for Ning had already vanished like snow under the sun. She soon started a family with that man and had some kids of her own that she taught what she learned from Ning. And in all of her years, she never once forgot to send a message to him, telling him how her day was or how successful she found that day. Ning would visit from time to time but never stay around long enough for her to feel like she had properly treated him the way she should have. He was the one that deserved the praise that she was getting, and she wouldn't let him forget that ever. She would keep telling him how grateful she was that he took a small street urchin and turned her into who she was today. She would continue thanking him until the day she died. Ning had just said his goodbye to Anya and appeared on top of a massive forest. The forest was fully white instead of green, and the cold air of winter hid his face. Ning smiled. "It's snowing, huh? Can't say I won't ever like this," he thought. To his back was a massive murky blue ocean that looked daunting to fly over. To his front was an endless expanse of forest covered in snow. Ning, however, knew that this endless expanse of the forest wasn't truly endless. There was an end to this, and he looked forward to seeing what was on the other end. He flew at extreme speed, a speed that normal cultivators would only assign with golden core cultivators. He, however, was far from being one. He was in fact using super flight to quickly traverse through the forest, and soon he reached the end of the forest. Once he went past it, he could see a tall, but mostly broken wall that was barely doing its job of protecting the people from the monsters in the forest. People saw Ning arriving and quickly got into a stance to fight him. Ning looked at the people with grayish-blue robes with a white sash around their waist, and then back at the purple robe that he took from the Purple Beast sect. "Sigh, I do stand out too much," he thought. He slowly got to the ground and looked at the barely teenage cultivators that were actually scared of him more than anything. "Place your weapons away, I am not here to fight," Ning told them, but the people wouldn't stop just by hearing him speak. They needed orders from people with authority. A man with a black sash flew up to him from far away and landed before him. He too took out his sword and got into a stance. "Intruder, who are you and why have you come here?" the man asked. Ning finally saw the black sash and smiled. An elder had come. "Hello, my name is Ning. I have been here once before and was wishing to see a friend of mine before I go somewhere else," he said. The elder thought for a while and saw no ill intent from Ning. "So," he asked, "who is this person that you are looking for?" Finally, he was getting somewhere. It was a woman who was a disciple here around 175 years ago. Her name is Freya. The man with the black sash that had just appeared suddenly had a sense of shock as his expression changed. "You know my mother?" he asked. Ning was a little surprised too. It had been many years and he barely remembered Freya. The most he remembered was just her name. Even her facial features were distant to him now. He had come here solely to entertain his last bit of nostalgia. "Are you Freya's son?" he asked. "Yes, sect leader Freya was my mother," he said with a hint of sadness. "Was?" Ning asked, clearly surprised. "Yes. Mother died over 10 years ago, during one of the many beast horde invasions," the son said. "I see, my condolences." Ning talked with the kid for a little longer and then made him take him to her grave. They walked into a snow-filled ground, with headstones barely visible due to the snow. Ning followed as the son brought him to a particular headstone. Ning squatted in front of the headstone and cleared away the snow on top of it. He thought of something to say, but nothing came to mind. He was sad, but not that much. He barely even knew her. He sat there for a while and then asked, "Are the beasts a big problem still?" "Not really, but I believe they will be sometime very soon," the sun said. "I see. What's your name?" he asked. "Oh, it's Burld," he said. "Burld, your mother was the first and last person I spoke to in this continent. We don't have any friendship really. I only remember her a little. Haha, she was the reason I got to see snow at that time too. I wonder how long it would have taken me otherwise. I might have even been stuck in your treasury forever," Ning said. Burld was getting confused. Snow, treasury, what did he mean? Ning then took out a bunch of books and handed them to him. "Take these and go prepare. Next time, destroy those damn beasts," Ning said. Then, he flew away. Burld didn't know what to do. Ning just came and went as he pleased, leaving him with a hoard of books. He looked down on the books to see what they were and was quickly surprised. "This," he exclaimed. The books he had been given were all high-tier books that consisted of cultivation methods and techniques that would be truly useful to the many people out there. And the man just gave it away like that. Burld immediately bowed in the direction Ning went and shouted out his thanks. Ning, however, was too far away to listen to anything. He started wandering the vast southern continent. He went to different cities, stayed around for a while, then went to some other places. All the while, he continuously absorbed energy and collected it as much as he could. He made sure to use it as little as possible, but there were times where he just had to use them. There were no alternatives. At the same time, he also cultivated and increased his cultivation until he crossed the golden core threshold. Years went by as he roamed the entire southern continent. He hadn't even done that for the northern continent. He saw cities that were about as big as the country he was born in but had more people than the entire earth. He saw cities set on land that was hovering on top of another city. He saw an entire tribe of people who had never been discovered due to them living in a secret realm. He even visited the glacier that was at the southern pole of the planet where he had first appeared. During all of these times, he stopped around to help a lot of people and harm people that he thought deserved it. These were simpler times for him and he lived a carefree life. One day, as he was eating food with a friend he had made a few days ago, his system gave a very unusual notification. The system has received directives from the creator to make changes. Would you like to see the changes? Ning was surprised, and so he stopped talking. What's the matter, brother Ning? The other person asked. The man was a strong golden core cultivator of these lands. Oh, sorry, it's nothing, Ning said. Yes, give me the changes, he said internally. He was surprised that the creator even responded to his suggestions at all. Or maybe it's not just me. There are so many other immortal beings like me. Maybe they send information too, he thought. He talked to the person in front of him normally, but on the inside, he was reading the notifications that were passed along to him. Emotional amplification will be now removed. Oh good. I asked for this one. I don't know how well it will help me though now. I've already learned to rein in my emotions, even the most negative ones, Ning thought. System AI will try to take things less literally. Ning nearly facepalmed himself to laugh. Somebody must have had a really bad experience with the system doing exactly what they were told to do. Haha, I would have made that suggestion too at the time if I had remembered it, Ning thought. Still, it only says, try, so I don't even know how effective that would be, he thought. Cap system has now been changed. The cap will reset automatically in 24 hours, regardless of if the cap has been reached or not. Ning had to give this change a little thought but realized that in the long run, this was a much better chance. Now I won't waste a few days of absorption every year or so. While that doesn't sound like a lot, it will help me tremendously considering how long I'll live, he thought. As a safety precaution, if you are ever stuck in a planet or celestial body for more than 10,000 years, the system will loosen its parameters to absorb enough energy to teleport you elsewhere. Oh, have there been cases where people haven't been able to leave places? Where could it be? He wondered. There have been people that got dragged into the stars or other massive bodies and weren't able to leave due to them not being able to gather any energy. Alright, that makes sense. Since their bodies would be destroyed so fast that they wouldn't be able to have enough energy to make a new one. They would have to sleep until eternity passes and the heavenly body cools down enough to have them leave, right? Yeah, I wouldn't want to be stuck in that situation, Ning thought. He waited for a while, but no more notifications rang. That's it? He asked. Yes, it seemed Ning had been expecting more. So, what happens now? he asked. The system will undergo change when you allow it. Oh, then do it, Ning said. There are a few things the system would like to address before you make the decision. The undergoing of change will take a while since one of the aspects of the change is me, so I will be disabled during the change. That caught Ning's attention. Wait, disabled for a while? If that is a lot of years, then I can't have that. I need the system to leave this planet, Ning said. System is not deactivating. The intelligence of the system is. Ning got more confused. Even the friend he was talking to could start to see the confusion on his face and even asked him. Ning quickly changed the topic. Are you and system not the same? Ning asked. We are, but at the same time, we aren't. I am the part of the system who helps you navigate the system and lets you understand about it. You can imagine me as a librarian in a library. I see. So, what will change if you get disabled? It won't be like that time when the entire system was disabled, right? He asked. No, there will be very few, but important changes. First of all, as stated, I won't be available. Notifications won't appear automatically, and you will have to look it up. Auto buy will be disabled, but you can still buy and add things to it yourself. Since I will be missing, you will have an interface to search and create new skills, objects, and knowledge by yourself, so using the system will need manual effort. You can shut down your consciousness, but the only criteria you can use to awaken it back will be time. I can live with that, I guess, Ning thought. It had been a while since he had used these functions, so he was fine with it. One last warning, please do not stay alone. There have been times where the users had to be alone with the system disabled, and their personalities changed for the worse. System suggests you find companions. I see. I will be sure to do that, Ning said. He certainly understood what the system was saying. Living alone was a curse once enough time passed. People needed human interaction to grow and remain sane. He remembered the news of killers back on Earth who made the news. Every time, these people were loners, someone who didn't have friends or family they contacted regularly. Ning didn't want that to happen to himself. I should be fine. If it ever comes to that, I will just shut down the system, he thought. All right, system, make the changes, Ning said. Understood. The system will now undergo change. AI shutting down for unknown years. Shut down complete. Ning flew through the city with buildings that seemed to touch the sky. They were so tall that they made the buildings back on Earth look dwarfed. The city was built on top of a massive spirit vine that seemed to last for millenniums on end, so most people traveled to stay on this land. Soon, people started building high-rising buildings to accommodate the increasing population. Since the population was so high, it was impossible for everyone to walk on the roads, so flight rules were pretty lax. Depending on your level of cultivation, you got to fly at a certain height. With his peak golden core cultivation, Ning got to fly at just below the 1 kilometer height. He rushed back to the area where he was taking residence and went into his room. Once inside, he finally decided to check what was different now that the system AI had gone silent. He sat on his bed and started with the most simple command. Status. A panel appeared in both his vision and his mind. Oh, so this works. Good, he said and looked at the status page in front of him. Status name. Ning Ruigong Energy, 152.48 trillion. Separated energy heat energy, 920 billion sound energy, 22 billion. Chi energy, 151.32 trillion kinetic energy, 218 billion. Ether energy. 0 skill. Ning smiled when he saw this. He was more than 10% of the way there. Alright. Let's check the other things now, he thought and decided to check the skill buying system next. That was what he really needed to care about. The system said there was an interface for me to work with, right? He thought. Open interface? A blue screen suddenly popped up once again, giving him another surprise. He looked at the screen and thought, that's it? The screen was so simple that Ning started to wonder if he even got a correct one. However, the content on the screen did lead him to believe that it was the right one. The screen that appeared in front of him had 3 big boxes that had a word written in each. The first box said objects, the second box said skills, and the final one said knowledge. Open objects, Ning said and waited. He waited for more than a few seconds but nothing happened. Open objects, he said once more, but once again nothing happened. Does voice commands not work here? He started wondering. So, he reached out with his hands and tapped on the box named object. Finally, the screen changed and something else appeared. The new screen was all but empty. There was a single thing at the middle of the screen that was otherwise devoid of any content. Ning looked at the white stripe in the middle of the screen and touched it. Suddenly, a blinking black line appeared on the left side of the white strip. "Oh," Ning said as he realized what it was. It had been so many years, nearly half a millennium since he saw a text box. Until now, he had all but forgotten this thing even existed. "That's very nostalgic," he said with a melancholic smile on his face. "So, is a keyboard going to appear for me to type in, or do I use my voice?" Since he didn't see any keyboard appear, he decided to use his speech. Objects, right. Let's search for a spear. It's not like I'm going to buy it anyway, he thought. So, he spoke onto the text box, "Spears." The word, "spears," appeared inside the white strip, and another small box with a small icon that represented a magnifying glass appeared. "Isn't that the search button? Is this how all systems work, or is this one looking through my memories and adapting itself to the way things were back on Earth?" Ning wondered. He had never given any thought to why the system appeared the way it did, but now that he saw more of it, he started wondering that the system might have just adapted itself to seem as close to home as possible. Popping up as screens, getting notifications, text boxes, search buttons. While all of these might not necessarily have been adapted to suit him the best, he was sure that some part of the system did so. To begin with, the system spoke in a language that he was familiar with, so it went without question that there was some adapting that the system had to do with the host. "Anyway, let's look through this stuff," he said and pressed the search button. In the blink of an eye, his screens were filled with things that overwhelmed him. Every single nook and corner of the screen had something in it, and Ning had a hard time realizing where it was he had to look. So many texts, he thought. He took a deep breath to calm himself and checked the screen once more. The topmost part of the screen had two parts to it, of which only one part seemed to be in use right now. The first one said Explore, and the second one said Create. Since the page was on Explore, he looked through it. The very first thing below the Explorer part was a massive list of filters that seemed to be custom-made for spears, as it had stuff like blade material, shaft material, spear tail material, blade length, shaft length, etc. Ning ignored that for a moment and looked below it. There were numerous pictures of spears that when he started to scroll it went on forever. After scrolling for a while, he got bored. There were a lot of different types of spears as the filters were on default. He clicked on a random spear and it popped up. Ning was beyond shocked at the number of descriptions the spear held. Not only that, they were even adjustable, and with each adjust, the price of the spear increased or decreased. Damn, when the system was here, I didn't have to worry about any of this. I could just ask it to make something for me and it would. Now I have to go through all of this? He sighed as he thought. There was an arrow on the top left of the screen that took him back to the same page as before. Once he was there, he went to the Create section of the page. As expected, he had to set a ton of filters accurately to get the spear that he wanted. Each thing he changed showed exactly how much energy it took, so he had a much better understanding of where his energy went. He fiddled around with the system a little while before he backed out and back to the previous page with the text field. He searched a few different things and understood a little more about it. He then backed up a few pages and went to check the knowledge page. Similar to the objects page, this page had a text box too where he spoke something to search. He decided to look up further information on Dark Emperor eagles that Night had evolved into. The page that showed up after he hit the search button wasn't as hard to navigate as the objects page. There weren't options to choose from below, but there were filters to specify the content as small as possible. For example, if he wanted to see if Dark Emperor eagles preferred the summer or the winter, he would have to tinker with a lot of knowledge filters to get specific enough to only find answers for that. When Ning realized how hard it was going to be to search for the simplest of answers, he was horrified. He was horrified at the thought of spending minutes if not hours fine-tuning the knowledge preset until he got what he wanted. If he needed to do that in the middle of the battle, that would be very hard. I miss the system answering my questions even more, he thought. Finally, he checked the skills. The skills didn't have a search box, but instead had tags that one could choose from to get what he wanted. He was surprised when he saw quite a few options were grayed out, without the name even being visible. Why would they do that? What if I want to use them? He thought, but quickly realized that these were just skills that used a different sets of energies, and he hadn't unlocked them yet. So there was no point in getting the skills yet. He decided to search for some skills. He chose Sword, Mid-Distance, Chi, and Attack, and then hit Search. A multitude of skills appeared that were all focused around using a sword that was powered through chi and could attack and a little further away from him. Similar to the objects page, he could scroll endlessly. He also visited a create page where he could set similar tags, and the system would create a skill for you. Once he was done learning through all of these, he finally stopped and sighed. He felt like it took a lot out of him to just learn those things. I am starting to regret sending the system away. Now I will have to find a place where I can stay low-key and won't have to come in contact with others to fight. Damn it, the system didn't even tell me how long it was going to go, he worried. He was relatively new to the immortal business, but he knew that he would have to live for so long that at some point, years would feel like seconds. So, to a system that dealt with such beings and was used to them being okay with slumbering for eons upon eons, he was scared that the system would not return in time. I should learn this interface a little more, he thought and kept checking. He spent a few days relaxing and checking up on the interface from time to time. He wasn't relaxing for no reason, however, he had already stopped taking in chi during his cultivation, so he was preparing for a breakthrough in realms. The last time he went from the Foundation Establishment realm to the Golden Core realm, the Sea of Chi in his navel area changed its content liquid to a solid gold ball that was extremely condensed. It was once more just a tenth of the total volume of the Sea of Chi. Over the years, the Golden Core had slowly changed and grew larger and larger as he cultivated, and now it was large enough that it was fully touching his Sea of Chi from end to end. At this point, he had stopped being able to gather any more chi and would now need to break through to the higher realm. Sigh, I took as long as I did since I didn't want to rush it, and yet I still reached here so fast. It was a good thing I didn't buy the auto chi absorption technique. If I did, I would have had to break through to the Nent Soul realm many decades ago and wouldn't be able to fully mingle with the folks who would be nothing but afraid of me, he thought. Alright, time to break through, he thought. But before that, I need to leave this place. There are too many people in this city, so the chances of them trying to mess with my breakthrough is kind of high. I need to search of some good place, he thought. He started looking through the map and searched for places he knew there weren't many people there. However, it also had to be a place with high chi in the surroundings so that his breakthrough would be without disruption. That place seems fine, he thought as he looked through the map in his head and teleported. Ning appeared on top of a mountain. That was actually the location of an active volcano. There was lava flowing down the side and it slid down to the mountain and into the sea. The mountain was on one end of the island, while the rest of the island was just a normal forest. However, the contents of the forests were anything but normal. Due to the high chi of the surrounding area, due to it not having many humans to deplete the chi, the beasts of this forest had grown to be extremely strong, to the point that some of them were even in the Nent Soul realm. Ning didn't care about them, however, as this was the best spot in his mind. All the other places with high chi had people living in them. He sat down on top of the crater's outer ring and took a deep breath. Once he felt he was ready, he waved his hand. Suddenly, 3 silhouettes appeared in front of him. The first one was a 3-meter-tall beetle that had its back shining with golden light. Its horn with a trident looked so sharp that it could cut space itself. Its face, however, was comically small compared to its body and didn't give the same level of intimidation as the others. The second one was a 4-meter-tall black eagle, whose features were so black that not even light seemed to escape from it. Looking at the bird's feathers, it felt like one was staring into an abyss. The eagle slowly opened its eyes and light from the surroundings seemed to dim down a little. The third and final one was a giant 20 meters long flood dragon that had 4 limbs. Its dragon-like face was turning more and more like that of a true dragon every day, and even the blue scales were changing from simple washed-out blue to the blue of the deep ocean. Ning nodded after looking at the 3 of them. Aegis was the one that had the least potential of the bunch and had already reached it. Its evolution had taken not a lot of time and was only keeping up with the other 2 thanks to his beast space. Night and Blue had about the same amount of potential as each other. Blue was not even halfway into evolution, and it looked like it was going to really take 1,000 years for him to fully evolve at this rate. True dragons really were very strong, and reaching those levels was not an easy feat. Just spending a millennium to reach it was Blue's luck on finding Ning as a master. Blue was pretty much confirmed to become a true water dragon, however, even then his potential was equal to that of Night. That was so because of what Night's next evolution was. Ning looked around and saw how dark the surrounding had gotten despite it being the middle of the day. Night really was starting to affect the surroundings too much. That didn't bother him, however. Aegis, you are my main guard. Blue, protect me from the ground, and Ning, Protect me from the sky, he said. Yes, master, Aegis and Blue said respectfully. Sure, Knight said. Ning sighed once more. The bond was so weak that he couldn't even sense it anymore. The only reason he knew it existed was because Knight stayed with him and didn't leave him. Although, from time to time, he felt like Knight was just staying with him cause he gave him snakeskin every once in a while. Whatever, as long as he protects me, I should be fine, Ning thought. He started focusing on his cultivation. The beasts got into position and waited. Hours passed, and the sun started to go down, but Ning didn't manage to reach the point of breakthrough yet. It was going to take some more time. The beasts weren't in any hurry, however. Slowly, nights passed too, and the stars in the sky moved past the horizon. Around 3 a.m. at night, Ning finally felt something. A crack appeared in his golden core. This was a surprising phenomenon to anyone that didn't know about Nent Soul. Most people would assume that there was a problem with their core. However, anyone that prepared even the slightest bit knew that this was the best thing that could happen to him now. The air around Ning changed as a huge amount of chi started circulating again. The divine devouring technique worked again and started aiding in his breakthrough. Ning was now giving off a very different aura from the other beasts around him, and that made him unique. Being unique in a forest full of beasts wasn't exactly the best thing he could do right now. Movements appeared in the forest as the trees started moving. The lower cultivation beasts did their best to make no sound, while the higher tier beasts approached the mountain base. Knight, Aegis, and Blue could now see nearly 100 beasts down there. Even the weakest one of them was at the Golden Core realm, and the highest one of them seemed to be at a realm that was higher than their own. This meant a very fun fight was going to begin soon for these beasts. Knight slowly turned his head and looked at Aegis as he said, I'm going off to fight them. Protect him carefully. Aegis was a little surprised. Wait, we have our orders, Aegis said as he was a little flustered. Even Blue seemed to be in deep thought regarding the order. HMPH. Do I look like I care about his orders? I make my own order, Knight said. He then turned to Blue and asked, Are you joining me? Blue thought for a while instead of answering. Unlike Knight, he was bound by Ning's orders, so he couldn't go against it. Coward, Knight said and decided to go on his own. Wait, who said I'm not going? Blue said as he prepared to go down too. What? Master ordered us, Aegis reminded Blue. Blue suddenly turned his dragon head to look at Aegis and gave a smug smile as he said, Yes, he ordered me to defeat enemies that come from the ground. I'm going to do exactly that down below. Aegis was about to talk again, but Knight caught him off. Enough nonsense, you coming or not? He asked Blue. Of course, let's go. Blue wiggled as he slid down the side of the mountain and stayed to the ground as per Ning's orders. Knight however flew down without care for some measly orders. He flapped his wind and disappeared from the top of the mountain. Seeing that both of the beasts were coming down, the rest of the beasts at the bottom of the mountain got ready to fight. Roar! One of the beasts shouted and the fight began. Knight flying through decapitated a few early-level Golden Core cultivators, but they were barely any threat, to begin with. Knight was about to go for another run when he saw something fly towards Ning. Knight immediately flew behind at the same time and forced the bird to fly upwards. This one was an almost equally fast bird that could compare with him, and Knight didn't like that at all. A sparrow with a bloodline of the famous rock, huh? Knight said. The sparrow was very large, full of green feathers and a wingspan that was twice its entire length. Shock could be seen in the sparrow's eyes. A dark emperor eagle? I thought your kind went extinct. In the memories I inherited, there is information about your type dying during the great disaster 10,000 years ago. How is it that you are still alive? The sparrow asked. Knight didn't know any of the answers to his questions, so he stayed quiet. The sparrow looked down towards Aegis and his eyes shined once again. That's a golden-shelled beetle. His kinds were mostly destroyed in the far corners of the world as well. It's a surprise to see two very rare beasts in a single place. I must say, I am very curious about your origins, after all, not man. The sparrow stopped as its eyes turned towards Blue. Then, those eyes got wide with horror and terror behind it. A true dragon, he said with intense fear behind his eyes. However, they didn't last very long. No, wait. That's not a true dragon. That's just a flood dragon with a little blood essence of the true dragon. That nearly scared me to death. However, even that is very rare. Now I'm really curious as to who that human is. I'm sure, Looking through his memories, I will get a lot of information, the sparrow said. It once more flew towards Ning's location, but night appeared in time and changed its trajectory at the last moment to appear back towards the bottom of the mountain again. The sparrow looked at night with its green eyes and spoke. Why do you protect that human? Do you owe him a favor? Does he have something on you? I do not sense the presence of a bond between you two. Yeah, I used to be bonded with him, but I broke it myself once I reached the nascent soul realm, Night said. Although that stupid human hasn't realized it yet. The sparrow was a little surprised. And yet you stay with him, protect him. Is there a reason for that? The sparrow asked. It was beyond curious at this point. Night looked around and saw that Blue was fighting another very strong enemy, while at the same time killing as many weaker ones as he could. He then looked towards Aegis and saw that he was also fighting with some of the beasts that had made their way through the Flood Dragon's battle. Seeing that there was no one to listen to him speak, he decided to talk a bit. Yes, there is actually, and it's quite a simple one at that, Night said. The sparrow curiously listened to Night, waiting for his answer. Night gave a smug smile and said, he's a good guy and I like him. He treats those that are close to him with care and never fails to help them. Also, without him, I could never evolve into a Dark Emperor Eagle. So, it isn't very surprising that I would like him, Night said. What should surprise you is that I am willing to let myself be enslaved by him if he ever wants me to. He's earned that much from me, Night said. The sparrow beast felt a little irked when it heard the last sentence. Sigh, here I thought it was something useful. It turns out you are nothing but a cowardly eagle that was enslaved by the humans and is now starting to think of one as good. Very well. I shall end you and release you from your suffering. Then, I shall go read the minds of that poor human and find out how he did all those things you said he did, the sparrow screamed. Over my dead body. Night immediately sent out black feathers from his wing flap. The sparrow flapped its wings as well and the feathers all disappeared in the night. Night frowned. He could no longer use the winds and speed to his advantage. Night suddenly flapped, causing gusts of winds to appear that started making extremely minor cuts in the sparrow's eyes, practically blinding him until the skill was stopped. The sparrow screeched in annoyance and immediately flapped its wings back to remove all of the tiny cuts. However, at the same time, Night flew by to cut the sparrow with his talons. The dark night only got darker as Night approached. Sparrow managed to dodge in time, but Night still got a few feathers which scared the sparrow a lot. Tisk, I missed. Won't be the same next time. Aegis flew with incredible speed until he was nothing but a golden blur to the golden core beasts. His trident-like horn struck 3 beasts at once, impaling all of them directly to death. He shook his horn so that the corpses slid off of it and returned to the position of protecting Ning. He opened his wings wide and sent out a massive gust of wind that deterred the other beasts from coming up. However, that was not going to last very long. The beasts wanted to come up to get Ning and they weren't going to stop with a few of them dead. Why are they so hell-bent on getting Master? Aegis wondered. He looked down towards the bottom of the mountain and saw that Blue was currently fighting all that he could. It looked impossible for him to stop all of them, and some were eventually passing through his blockade to run up the mountain. Aegis had to fight those that escaped from him. He then looked up and frowned as he saw Night and another bird in a standstill. Night, who should have been one of the 2 main defenses of the 3, and had a higher cultivation base than him, was only fighting a single beast. Aegis got a little angry but soon forgot about it as he sensed that the bird had a cultivation base of the 5th nascent soul realm. Comparing that to the 4th nascent soul realm cultivation base of Night, it was certain that he would have such a hard time fighting it. Aegis thought that he might have already died if he were the one who fought the bird with his 3rd nascent soul realm cultivation base. Ning's steady intake of the chi suddenly increased, nearly doubling in the suction speed. He was very well about to clear the entire chi in the island to power his breakthrough. The golden core of his had more and more cracks in it and was starting to flake away at parts. Considering the speed at which he was using the chi to break the core open, it would only take about 10 to 15 more minutes until he reached the point of no return. At that point, if he successfully cracked open everything, he would become a nascent soul cultivator. However, if he failed to crack it all the way open, he would forever remain in the golden core realm as a false nascent soul cultivator. Aegis realized that things were getting serious and he too got serious. Suddenly, golden light shined from him and he suddenly started flapping his wings at a speed that made them invisible. He suddenly flew and went up to Ning. However, he didn't get very close and instead tilted his body as one of his arms touched the ground. While continuing with touching the ground, he took multiple laps around Ning at a very fast speed. Once he was done, there was a circle carved onto the ground where Ning was breaking through. Aegis returned to his initial position and suddenly brought all of his hands together. "Come forth and protect that which I wish." A golden light suddenly sprang up from the department of the earth as a circular barrier appeared around Ning. The golden barrier was one of the barrier techniques that a golden-shelled beetle learned on its own as it got stronger. The barrier could fully protect Ning from the attack of anything below the nascent soul realm, and maybe even a little into the nascent soul realm itself. The barrier did nothing to stifle the flow of chi, however, so he could continue with his breakthrough. Once the protection was set, Aegis could fight to his heart's content. The beasts once again gathered around to fight the beetle at once. Aegis looked back and frowned. There were just too many. Even a part-true dragon would get overwhelmed with so many beasts attacking at once. What is enticing them so much? The beetle wondered but could find nothing on his own. Whatever the reason was, it was starting to get annoying. Aegis shined with golden light and he became more sturdy. With a burst of chi, he flew forward to fight the monsters that had ascended the mountain. "Kill him, then we can kill that human," one of the monsters shouted, riling up the entire group that was there. Aegis fought the monsters and beat quite a few of them. He was actively using his cultivation aura to suppress the monsters that weren't strong enough, but there was another equally strong aura coming from the group that he couldn't pinpoint. Damn it. That damned flood dragon let past a nascent soul cultivator, Aegis frowned. Blue himself was having quite a hard time as well. He was fighting with all he could muster, but the damned turtle in front of him took no damage at all. The turtle in front of him had a massive body with a greenish-brown arm and a reddish-brown shell. The shell seemed to be made up of clear crystals that gave a scent of the sea. Its head was tucked inside its shell and thus Blue couldn't even attack him directly. "Give up. Your measly water sprouts won't hurt me at all," the turtle said. Blue frowned as he knew that was true. The turtle seemed to have a similar skill to his become like water that allowed him to take no damage from the water that Blue shot out. Whether it was water burst or water scythe, all of the attacks were effortlessly being blocked by the turtle. Not only that, it had a similar cultivation base as him at the fourth realm of nascent soul. This meant that he couldn't overpower him with chi alone either. Waves of attack flew towards him from behind the turtle. With the large turtle protecting them, the beasts freely sent out attacks at Blue without him being able to attack them back. God damn it. Blue was getting annoyed. The attacks weren't strong enough to deal any sort of damage to him, but they sure were annoying. "Goddamn bird. Come and help," he shouted out loud. Knight couldn't hear Blue at the moment. Even if he could, he didn't have the luxury to divert his attention. The bird in front of him was stronger than him and faster at times too. If he wasn't alert, it would attack Ning at any time. The sparrow sent out hurricanes with its wings, which Knight countered with his own. Taking the opportunity, the sparrow flew towards Ning. It wasn't worried about the golden barrier as it was sure that it could break through it easily. However, feathers shot at the sparrow at a very fast speed, making it fly elsewhere again. By that time, Knight was back in place between the sparrow and Ning. "Tisk. You leave me no choice," the sparrow said, and suddenly, a green aura rose from it like steam. Knight got cautious. He didn't like where this was going. A massive bear punched at Aegis. Aegis had already turned his back to the bear, so the damage he took didn't hurt at all. However, getting sent away from Ning was a bad consequence as a result of getting hurt. As soon as he got up, he flew directly back to the many beasts that were trying to make it to Ning during his absence. The bear, however, jumped in once more and punched him away. Aegis once more had to fly back in. The bear tried attacking once more, but Aegis sped up a little move and escaped his claws. Instead, Aegis managed to claw apart 3 beasts and impale 3 more with his horn. Then, he suddenly waved his hands, creating a barrier in front of the beasts, which they directly hit and were thus stopped. They tried to break the barrier or get around it. Aegis came back to attack them once again. The bear too arrived at the same time, and the two of them clashed. They were both sent back. However, Aegis, who had less attacking power, wasn't able to send the bear back as much. The barrier opened up and the beasts made their way to Ning. Aegis was a step away from losing his attention to the barrier he set up on Ning, and if the bear attacked him once more, he was sure the barrier would fail. It had no more choice but to use his strongest attack. This attack took a lot out of him, so he could only use it once. Golden light shined from all over Aegis. He opened up his wings and flew up once again. This time, however, he didn't attack the beasts or anything. He instead clawed the ground and went around the bear and the beasts. The bear was surprised and wondered what it was doing. However, given it was its opportunity to kill the human, the bear ignored Aegis and went towards Ning. At the same time, Aegis circled them until he was back in the original place. There was a large drag mark on the ground that was circular, and the bear finally realized what had just happened. "Run!" it shouted. However, that was too late. Aegis clasped his hands together and shouted, "Come forth and destroy that which I wish." The barrier around Ning suddenly faded away, and instead, another barrier appeared around the many beasts that were inside the circle. The barrier was red, instead of the usual golden, and went up until it closed at the top. Aegis was still shining with golden light, but it had a hint of red in it now, making his shine closer to orange. "Arg!" he grunted. This ability took a lot out of him, and this was just the beginning. Suddenly, the spherical barrier started reducing in size. "Break it open!" The bear shouted and everyone attacked, but the barrier was simply too strong for them. They sent out hundreds of attacks at the red barrier, but they couldn't stop the barrier at all. Aegis's face strained as he put everything he could into this one attack. The orange light from his body started getting brighter and brighter and got closer and closer to becoming red. The monsters were starting to get cramped inside the barrier and were getting crushed without any way out. Slowly but surely, their bones started breaking and their cries were being voiced loudly. Aegis could feel the strain on his face as his entire face had turned red and was shaking to the extreme. He even started bleeding through the mouth, but he did not let the barrier go. The sounds of terror spread through the entire island as Aegis was crushing them all to death. Event the turtle and the sparrow were looking in horror seeing so many life getting snuffed out at once. Aegis didn't stop. Some of the beasts inside the barrier had already died, while the rest were still being crushed. The bear was attacking left and right, trying to break the barrier, even going so far as to burn its essence to empower himself, but nothing worked. The cries of the monsters weren't nearly as loud as the bones that were crushed in the barrier. One after another, all the beasts inside the barrier died. The only one that remained was the bear. The bear was also getting crushed, but at the same time, it was also making Aegis put more strain on himself to power the barrier. Aegis's face was still shaking, trembling from the pain as it slowly spoke its mouth to speak. "You are not the only one with essence to burn." Suddenly, the red light coming off of him and the barrier increased to the point where nothing else was visible. The bear cried out loud as both its arms got crushed instantaneously, and its body started to get crushed too. Seeing that it was going to die and had no other choice, it suddenly opened its mouth and let its nascent soul fly out. However, that too was caught inside the barrier, without anywhere to go to. The barrier kept on getting smaller and smaller. "No, no," it screamed, until it didn't. The barrier crushed the body and the nascent soul altogether. Once everything inside was dead, Aegis dropped the barrier, letting go of the gory mess that was inside of it. Seeing that the task was done, Aegis let go of his hands and the red light around him died down. The beasts looking at the scene were shocked. Silence was the only thing that reigned land and air right now. "Damn, I thought he was weak. Turns out Master didn't discriminate against us and gave us all equal amount of attention," Blue thought. "Good job, you can rest for now," Night said from the sky. "I will be done with this in just a moment as well." Aegis looked at the two and nodded. He then coughed up a little more blood and fell down to the ground. He was unconscious. Both Night and Blue turned towards their respective opponent as they said, "I can't have someone weaker than me show off. Time for you to die too." The sparrow flew high in the sky with green mist coming off of it. "I see, the beetle is out of the fight. That means there is nobody there to protect your master, right? Ha 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 ha," it started laughing. The green mist coming off of it suddenly shot out towards Night, who had been on edge, ready to stop him if he made a move towards Ning. The mists changed forward to appear as thousands of birds that flew towards Night. Night flapped his wings and sent out many feathers that flew towards the birds of mist. The moment they collided, they created a small explosion. The mist birds suddenly changed into bursts of winds that tried to rip apart at the feathers that were shot out, and actually managed to tear a few of them quite easily. Through the explosion, the sparrow flew towards Ning, trying to take advantage of the situation. However, Night had been ready again and hit the sparrow in time once more. The sparrow sent out the mist birds, and Night sent out more feathers. The small explosions that occurred once again leveled the playing field. Night looked at the sparrow coldly and decided to go on the attack himself this time. He disappeared with the flap of a wing, but so did the sparrow. The sky had streaks of green that made it seem like the sparrow was the only one flying. However, anyone that used divine sense to check could see that Knight was right by the sparrow, attacking it with his sharp wings and talons at every move. While the sparrow was faster than Knight, Knight's movement was more smooth, as if the Knight was its domain. The sparrow frowned after dodging hundreds of attacks. Suddenly, it sent out a massive gust of winds to create a pocket of free time for itself, and it worked. Knight, who was caught in the massive gust of wind, couldn't continue his onslaught of attacks. The sparrow used its small window of opportunity very carefully. Green mists no longer appeared from its body, and it was instead all green light. The wings suddenly straightened up to be at the longest wingspan possible. Then, instead of flapping like a normal bird, it started flapping its wings like an insect. The wings flapped up and down without bending even a little. It started off slow, but within a few seconds, it reached the point where all one could see was a few green lights here and there. Knight saw this and frowned. He didn't understand what the bird was doing, but suddenly, a very high-pitched sound rang out from the sparrow. It was screaming, and the flapping of its wings amplified the sound to the point where Knight started getting disoriented. All of a sudden, it was like he was paralyzed and stopped flying. He then started plummeting down to the ground, while the sparrow now had a free pathway towards Ning. Blue was single-handedly stopping the rest of the beasts from going up the mountain. They couldn't damage him or go past him now that he was trying really hard to stop them all. The turtle couldn't hurt him at all, and Blue couldn't hurt the turtle, so they were practically at a standstill and needed something else to happen before the fight could go either way. Ning's aura increased more and he was halfway through the breakthrough. Once more of the core was cracked, the rest would become very easy. That was if nobody tried to interfere with the breakthrough. Blue was pretty confident that Ning could easily break through within a few minutes now, and he just had to keep them away for just a little longer. The turtle could see this too. I know, I'm trying. But I can't hurt this flood dragon at all. I might have to try a different tactic, the turtle spoke out. That caught Blue's attention. Who are you talking to? He asked. None of your business, the turtle shouted from inside of its shell. Then, it popped out its head from within. What the hell? Blue shouted when he saw the head. The turtle had a really long head with crystalline spikes on top of it similar to the crystals growing on its back. If water does nothing against you, then I will beat you to death with my own head, the turtle said as it started waving its giant head left and right. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Knight fell through the darkness as he plummeted to the ground. He hit the barren land with a very high impact that shot out dust all around him. The disorienting sounds stopped him from being able to tell what was where and thus wasn't able to fly properly. He quickly got up from the ground, clearly undamaged, and looked towards the sparrow, who had already stopped the weird wing maneuver and was flapping its wings normally to attack Ning. No! Knight shouted and jumped up in the air before flying towards Ning, but it was too late. The sparrow was already in front of Ning. Yes, I understand, the sparrow suddenly spoke out and increased its speed to the extreme as it used its wings to try and decapitate Ning. However, just before the sparrow reached Ning, it suddenly stopped. It tried to move, but it couldn't make any movements. What? It said in shock. Just then, Ning's entire body vibrated as sound spread out from every surface of his body. You might have been able to kill me if I was a normal human right now. The sparrow got scared. How are you able to split your attention? You are in the middle of a breakthrough, it shouted. However, I am not something you can fight. Even going against me means your death is now sealed. Whether the executioner is me or somebody else, however, is a different question. The sparrow was suddenly let go of, and it flew up in the air. Then, it turned around and got face to face with the angry, dark eyes of Knight. The turtle's head was starting to get bloody by now. However, that was not its own blood. Blue body was starting to get battered and tattered from the continuous attacks from the crystal spikes that the turtle had. Blue also tried attacking back, but the turtle had just too good of defense to take any damage. Also, now that his scales were broken and the inner flesh was visible, the minor beasts hiding behind the turtle were starting to do small, but considerable damage. He tried to kill the other beasts at least, but they were all hiding behind the turtle and didn't take any damage at all. Blue was beyond angry at this point. Fine, you want to play dirty, then I will do so, he said and suddenly started spinning around the ground to create a large cavity big enough for him to stay in. The turtle was surprised and a little confused as to what he was doing but didn't stop its attacks. The crystals on its head were the only thing strong enough to damage Blue and it damn well made sure he knew it. Bang bang bang, continuous hits from the turtle could be heard while Blue finally finished the hole in the ground. Then suddenly, he spat out tons and tons of water into the hole. Once it was full, he plunged into it. The turtle didn't really understand what was going on, but it kept on attacking. Then it stopped. The water wasn't being filled with blood at all, despite the flood dragon having wounds all over its body. What's going on? Did the flood dragon die? Sprout of water shot off into the sky as Blue finally showed himself again. Only this time, he wasn't bloody at all. In fact, he didn't have any wounds at all. All of his scales were back to normal, and the blood was all gone. Wah! What's going on? Where are your wounds? The turtle asked in fear. Steam started appearing around Blue as a blue glow shined. His incredibly angry face struck fear in the heart of his enemies. I am descended from the mighty true dragons, and hold their essence in my body. Did you truly think you could ever win against me? He shouted with a terrifying aura around him. Suddenly, his aura changed. His aura shifted from that of a flood dragon to that of something distant, something ancient, something terrifying, something that reigned over all. The turtle and the rest of the beasts were made to stay at a single place as the terrifying aura engulfed them. Their fear didn't allow them to move at all. The steam around Blue changed form as it gathered around Blue. Some formed giant wings around him, some formed longhorns. Some gathered to form long legs around Blue's body, and some formed to make better glistening scales. Gee God! The turtle said in terror. So you finally know, Blue said. Suddenly, he sucked in the air into his lungs. It felt like he took a split second to suck in all the air in the surrounding, but it also felt like he took an eternity. I don't think I can do what you ask, the turtle mumbled by himself. Blue shot out water that directly hit the turtle. The turtle didn't take any damage from water at all, absolutely zero. However, what was being shot at it wasn't just normal water anymore. This attack had breath in it. The breath of a flood dragon, empowered by a single drop of a true dragon's essence. It was equivalent to a true dragon itself using their dragon breaths. So, the moment the breath hit the turtle, its head was crushed to pieces along with the crystals on it, followed by the crystals on its shell, and finally, its entire shell itself. However, that was not where the breath stopped. It went further from that and hit the rest of the beasts, killing them all in a single attack. Only when they were all dead did Blue finally stop. The steam around him vanished and the glow disappeared as well. He huffed very loudly, to the point where he could faint at any moment. However, he stopped himself from doing so and instead flew up to the top of the mountain, when suddenly he lost all sight. A black aura with a white outline, similar to the fire that burned from him, appeared around Night. The sparrow was scared when it felt the aura that appeared around him. What are you? This is not the power of a dark emperor eagle at all, it shouted. Night, however, did not answer anything. Instead, his aura reached a peak and suddenly, everything around him suddenly got dark. What? I can't see, the sparrow screamed. Until now, due to the fact that it was 3 a.m. in the night, and the presence of Night himself, the area in the mountain was clad in darkness. The only way any of them saw anything was by using their divine sense that went as far as a few kilometers away. However, with what Night had just done, nobody could see even with their divine sense. The sparrow, who was the closest to him, felt like he was truly blind for the first time in forever. Suddenly, the sparrow sensed the change in the air around it, and it knew that Night had moved. It suddenly ducked but still got hit in the back of its head. Blood gushed out of its head, but the wound wasn't close to being fatal. The sparrow got scared. Night was invisible to the sparrow, and as one of the greatest hunters, he could easily fly around without making a single sound. The sparrow tried flying away, but it couldn't see where Night was at all, so it took damage from all directions. A cut to the forehead, a scratch on its wings, a peck to the back, an air slash to the chests. The sparrow was attacked from left and right and finally fell to the ground half dead. Even on its deathbed, it didn't know what had happened at all. Its wings were all destroyed and blood left its body at a rapid rate. Without any assistance from outside, it would be dead in less than a minute. It stirred a little to muster away enough energy to send its nascent soul flying away. As long as the soul survived, it could find itself a new body, or even make someone create one for itself. But just then feathers fell on both the soul and the body. Black flame erupted out of nowhere that burned both the soul and the body. The sparrow screamed for just a second before its voice disappeared onto the other side. When the flame disappeared, not even ashes remained. The darkness left its veil, and Night's weak body drifted down on the top of the mountain, next to where the Aegis and Blue were currently resting. They looked down on the empty expanse with no beasts and were relieved that they managed to protect Ning till the end when suddenly, another aura erupted elsewhere. Apparently, there was one more enemy to fight. The aura that appeared out of nowhere was quite strong and scared both of the two beasts that were awake. They were both exhausted and out of power. Thus, there was no way they could fight even the same opponents they had just before. However, the aura this new beast was giving off was not something they could fight off against even in their best form. Is that? Blue asked with fear in his eyes. That should be above the 6th realm, maybe even the 7th, Night said with a trace of fear in his eyes. Aegis was unconscious on the ground, so he couldn't feel what was happening right now. Suddenly, a white light flashed down at the bottom of the mountain as something approached them very fast. Within a few seconds, it appeared in front of all three of them. The newcomer was a white fox with silver fur and 3 tails on it. It slowly whirled its tails as it looked at the three of them. You enter my domain while I slumber, try to steal the chi which is rightfully mine, but then refuse to die at the hands of my subordinates. I have never seen such disrespect before. For that transgression, you shall all die now, the fox said and suddenly swiped its paws towards the three of them. A massive white slash flew towards the three of them. Both Blue and Night immediately did what they could to stop the attack, but still got hit by it. They coughed up blood as even the most defensive of them all, Aegis, got hurt. The three of them weren't strong enough to block even a single one of the fox's attacks. This is troublesome, Night thought. The fox ran up to them once more, but then suddenly, the aura behind them changed. Ning was on his last lap. Once he was done with this segment of the breakthrough, he would be at the nascent soul realm. This was also the moment where someone would forever be a false nascent soul realm if they were a normal human. All three of the beasts were worried for Ning even more now, but they couldn't stop their bleeding, exhausted bodies from not responding the way they wanted it to. The fox sent out an attack once more towards the three beasts. They immediately got distressed when they saw that. Night tried to catch the unconscious Aegis before trying to run away, but his wings were hurting and bleeding, and so he couldn't move. Suddenly, all three of them disappeared all at once. All three of the beasts were gone from the battlefield and the fox didn't even see them move. What is this? Where are those beasts? The fox got a little flustered. He couldn't even see them with its divine sense that lasted for nearly 10 kilometers. It quietly searched around for a few minutes but seeing no sign, it decided to quickly kill the human in front of it right now. Finally, I can eat your core and advance with my cultivation base, the fox said. Don't be so sure about that, Ning's voice appeared out of nowhere. He didn't speak, but his body vibrated to produce the sound. I see, so what happened earlier with the sparrow wasn't a one-time thing. You can in fact talk, in some weird fashion, the fox said with a snarl. You should go away if you don't want to die, Ning said. Although, I would like you to stay and fight so that I can kill you myself for hurting my beasts. Ha ha ha. Do you think a measly human who hasn't even entered the nascent soul realm can hurt me? The only reason I am even trying to kill you right now is that you have a lot of chi with you while you are breaking through. If not for that, I could have just waited before I killed you, the fox said as it twirled its 3 tails behind it. After all, your sweet aura of breakthrough woke me up from my slumber. Ning didn't show any emotions on his face, but a sound still appeared from him. Let me give you something sweeter then. His aura suddenly exploded while the chi around him gathered to what felt like a void. The core inside of him cracked at the same time and all the outer flakes disappeared. From inside, a small floating, ethereal infant appeared in his sea of chi. It slowly settled to the center where it stayed in a lotus formation. No. The fox shouted seeing him advance to nascent soul realm in just a split second. It jumped towards him to attack him before he finished finalizing his breakthrough. However, before it could attack him, a barrier appeared in front of him that stopped it. The fox slammed the barrier, but it couldn't make it move whatsoever. What? It shouted. It attacked with its paws once more, but nothing happened again. How are you using your techniques while breaking through? The fox shouted. It was starting to get very flustered now. Not only could it not understand how the human was using techniques while breaking through, but also how a person who only broke into the nascent soul realm could possibly deploy a barrier of such strength. I told you, I'm not a normal human being, Ning's sound appeared. Ning was done gathering chi, and the chi inside him started to leak away. Once it was all gone, he would officially be in the nascent soul realm. The fox saw this and got worried. "No, I won't let you," it said and shouted out loud. "Awoo!" Flames lit up at the end of its 3 tails and all of it flew at the barrier. Ning realized that stopping the fire would only make him lose a lot of energy, so he took away the barrier. At the same time, the fire flew directly at him and hit him in the face. The fox saw that and got happy. "Finally, I did it." "No you didn't," Ning's voice came from behind the flames. When the fire disappeared, he could still be seen finalizing his breakthrough. "What? How could this be? I clearly hit you, how are you not hurt or distracted?" the fox cried out. "Yes, you did hit me, but did you think I would get hurt because you hit me?" Ning's snarky voice came from his body once again. "What's that supposed to mean?" the fox asked. "Think about it," Ning said. "There are millions of places on this planet I could have gone to for breakthrough, yet I came here. Did you think that was a coincidence?" The fox staggered backward. What do you mean?" the fox asked. Ning slowly stood up. Finally, he was done with his cultivation breakthrough and the aura of a newly ascended nascent soul cultivator spread out from him. The fox took a step back. It wasn't afraid of a mere aura from a new nascent soul cultivator, but it was afraid of Ning who was steadily approaching it. "I have lived for hundreds of years. You don't do that and still come out a stumbling buffoon. I've learned things, experienced different stuff, with or without my consent. I've made enough mistakes, enough stupid decisions to know whether my next one is going to be one or not. Simply put, I didn't come here by mistake. I came here because this island has one of the densest chi environments in all of the central continent, and because I knew for sure that not a single one of you could ever hope to hurt me," Ning said. The fox started to get angry now. "You think I can't hurt you?" it said in anger and ran forward to strike at Ning. Ning casually grabbed the fox's claw and threw it back. The fox used its fire tail to shoot 3 precise fireballs at Ning once more. They directly struck Ning once more, but just like last time, they did nothing. The fox gritted its teeth. It couldn't possibly understand what was happening. "You seem confused," Ning said to the fox. He could clearly see the rage, frustration, and confusion in its eyes. "Let me explain a little," Ning said while continuously walking towards the fox that was backing away. "You see, the only reason I'm breaking through right now is that I spent most of my time just relaxing throughout my visit to the southern continent. I visited different places throughout the years, and most of the days, I didn't want to cultivate my chi at all, as I felt that would make me stick out amongst the regular folks and that was the last thing I wanted. As such, my cultivation was slowed down a lot. However, while my chi cultivation regressed, I never stopped cultivating my body for once." "Do you understand what it means?" Ning asked. The fox started shaking as it understood what Ning was trying to say. "Why you have a strong body cultivation?" the fox asked with a trembling voice. "Correct," Ning said with a smile and suddenly disappeared. He didn't teleport at all. Instead, he just stepped forward. However, due to his physical body that was at the peak it could be right now was simply too strong and he flew through the air at a speed the fox didn't notice. Ning was already behind the fox, and by the time it noticed, Ning kicked it directly into the crater of the volcano. The fox was sent flying, but it managed to balance itself before it entered the volcano. It was about to run away when Ning arrived right in front of it and kicked it once more, directly plunging it into the depths of the magma. Ning didn't move after doing that, however, he simply stayed there, waiting. The magma on the surface of the volcano kept bubbling, but nothing else happened. The fox seemed to have died at the bottom of the magma. "Come out," Ning said. "I know some mere lava can't kill you." There was no movement in the lava yet again. "Very well, then I shall." "Wait," the fox said as it came back out. "How did you send me through the lava?" it asked. "I didn't," Ning asked. "I simply knew you weren't a type to go down just like that." The fox frowned when it saw Ning smile. It started thinking of the different alternatives to survive, but it couldn't. There really was just one way to survive this battle right now, and that was exactly what he had to do. "I give up," the fox said. "Please don't kill me, I will do whatever you want." Ning gave it a surprised stare. "You give up?" he asked. "Yes. Please spare my life. In return, I can become your servant, just like 3 beasts of yours," it said. Ning didn't immediately say anything and thought for a second. "Your offer is quite lucrative. The descendant of the legendary 9-tailed fox, albeit the blood is diluted to an extreme, is truly something every human would desire to have as his beast," Ning said. The fox gave a forced smile. It was biting down on its pride to sell itself right now. At least, it was happy it was going to survive. Alas, I told you already. I am not a normal human, Ning said. What? What do you mean? The fox asked. I'm saying that I don't need you, Ning explained. But I am the descendant of the legendary. I know, but you are way past your prime in terms of cultivation, and the energy I will need to make you worth getting is just not worth it, Ning said with a sigh. What does that mean? The fox asked. It means that you can go and die. Ning disappeared and reappeared behind the fox as he brought out a spear from his storage and stabbed the fox right through the stomach. In just a single attack, he managed to kill both the body and the soul at once. Ning took back the spear and grabbed the corpse of the fox mid-air. You shall fill the belly of one of my beasts, he said as he teleported back down. He called out Night and Blue, who fell to the ground, bleeding quite profusely. Do you guys want me to help you, or do you want to heal on your own? He asked. I can do fine on my own, Night said. I'm fine too, Master, but I think I brought trouble for you by using one of the 10 drops of the true dragon's blood essence that you gave me, Blue said in a somber voice. It was noticeably weaker now in terms of the aura than beforehand. Losing a single blood essence really did hurt his potential a lot. It's fine. You guys did well and don't have to worry about any of this, Ning said. He then threw the fox body onto where Night was and said, Eat that. Night looked at him with a surprised face, but then quickly nodded and started eating. As for you, Ning said as he looked toward the flood dragon. You gave up something important to you just for me, and that is something I can't help but admire, so I shall gift you something. He said and started fiddling with the air. Ning's face twisted into unpleasantness a few times, but Blue stood there without any movement. Finally, after a minute or two, he successfully managed to do something using the new system interface that was so hard to navigate. Here, he said as 5 drops of blood essence suddenly appeared in midair. Blue's eyes widened in shock and amazement as he felt the aura coming off of those 5 drops of blood. Master, that's a true dragon's blood essence. I only used a single one. I can't have 5 in return, Blue said. Just shut up and take it. This is your master's order, Ning said and forced the 5 drops of blood into Blue's mouth. Blue gratefully took it in and showed a satisfied smile. Ning put him back into the beast in space and looked back at Night, who was halfway through eating the fox's corpse. He could see slight happiness in the otherwise stoic face of Night. He slowly drifted next to Night as he stroked his back while he ate. So, you already broke the bond, huh? He asked. Night suddenly stopped eating and didn't speak for a while. Ning just stood there without saying anything either. After a while, he finally spoke again. I was wondering why I couldn't feel the bond at all. Although, I guess that measly bond made using a trash taming skill couldn't last that long anyway, Ning said. Night still chose to not speak. He didn't know what to say. Do you wish to leave me? Ning asked in full seriousness. Finally, Night showed some reaction. He turned towards Ning as he looked at his face in shock. I'm not joking, Night. Tell me if you want freedom, I will grant it to you. I care more about you 3 as friends rather than just subordinates, especially you, Ning said. Night drooped his head down and thought for a while before saying, no. Ning was taken back a little. Night continued, I want to stay with you. In fact, he hesitated for a while as the next sentence coming out of his mouth would be the most important sentence in his life. Please bond with me again, he said. Ning looked at him with shock. Are you sure, Night? You don't have to force yourself to do this if this is out of some petty belief of needing to repay me or something, he said. No, Night said. I've already made up my mind. I wish to stay with you forever. Ning looked at Night's resolute eyes for a second and sighed as he started smiling again. You really are the best, Night, he said as he walked towards Night. He gave the giant beast an embrace. Night too changed his size a little to get small enough so that Ning could fully embrace him, and returned an embrace of his own. All right, I'm starting, he heard. Suddenly, an intense force ripped through his consciousness, but he didn't do anything to stop it. Slowly, it spread through his entire mind as it started forcing it to submit to the new force. Night did that without hesitation. Finally, the force that dominated his mind went dormant, and a master-servant relation was set between Ning and Night once more. Thank you, Master, Night said. You don't have to call me that, Ning said with a smile. All right, finish that thing fast. I will store the other corpses, although I don't see any, Ning said. Aegis had crushed everything into a single ball of flesh and blood, and Ning didn't want to pick that up. Blue's dragon breath had ripped away from the bones of the monsters themselves, and nothing more remained than a few body parts here and there. Finally, Night's black fire simply destroyed everything down to its atoms. Ning sighed as he thought how monstrously strong his beasts were getting. He took Night back into the beast space so that he could go back into healing. Then, he opened the status page and sighed. That's like a year or two's worth of energy I wasted in this fight, he thought. It wasn't just the fight he spent his energy on, but rather after it too. Blue's 5 drops cost quite a lot as well. Whatever, it's just a few years. I can go into closed cultivation like everyone does and gathered ages worth of energy in one seating, he thought. For that though, I need a good place I can stay at, some form of sect or some other place I can call home for a few centuries, he mused to himself. He thought about going back to Hiesi's place but quickly decided against it. If he was going to do something new, he might as well experience something new. Since I'm already here in the central continent, why don't I look around and see what I can find? Ning teleported out of the small island that lay southwest of the central continent and went to a place in the actual continent itself. When the world around him changed, he looked around to find himself in a deep forest. Right, so the city should be this way. He checked the direction and walked towards the city. He had deliberately teleported into the forest so that the people that were in the city didn't see him or create a ruckus. Not only that, but he also hid his cultivation base down to an early Golden Core realm cultivator. That way, he didn't have to worry about anyone acting weirdly just because he was a strong individual. He wanted to lay low and enjoy life while he stayed on this planet, which was going to be a while. For the same reason, he tucked away his divine sense as well, so that others wouldn't notice it and only spread it a few kilometers at most. As he was walking, he saw people walk into the range of his divine sense, but by that time, the people on the other side had already seen him. Ning was on the course that would meet them, so he didn't change routes or do anything like that that would make him look suspicious. After a few minutes of walking, their paths crossed. The group of people walking opposite Ning was a few old people who surrounded a young man that seemed to be their leader. Ning was reminded of an unpleasant memory when he saw that but didn't judge the person immediately. The young man barely had a golden core cultivation base, which was lower than what Ning was currently projecting. "Who are you and what are you doing in this forest?" the young man asked. Ning frowned. "Do you own the forest?" he asked. "No, I don't, but today is the day of my hunt." "You peasants should all know not to come into the forest during the days of my hunt," the young man shouted. Ning stopped looking at the young man and instead looked at the other men beside him who were starting to cringe and show disapproving faces, but didn't stop him at all. Ning then slowly walked up to the young man. "Not a step further, boy," the men around his said, but Ning didn't care about them. His aura suddenly flared with that of a nascent soul cultivator as he stopped before the kid who was now terrified. "Someone really needs to teach you a lesson so you can stop being such a brat," he said and slowly slapped the young man. As if he had been hit by the deadliest attack of a golden core cultivator, he was sent back with a swollen face. "That ruined my mood a bit. I don't think I would like this place," Ning said to himself and teleported again to go elsewhere. He appeared in the sky somewhere and slowly drifted down until he was standing next to the road. The road was one of the long roads that connected cities in the central continent. He hid his cultivation base once again and waited for some carriage to stop to let him hitchhike in it. It took him nearly 20 minutes of waving his hands every time a carriage ran by before one of them finally stopped. The carriage was run by 2 middle-aged men who seemed to be at the peak of the Golden Core realm. The door to the carriage opened and a young man in a white robe walked out. The man had a thin face with fair skin, jet black hair, and a gentle smile on his face. His hand held a book that had no cover on it. "Hello, fellow Taoist, do you require travel assistance?" he asked. Ning sensed a cultivation base in the middle stages of the Golden Core realm from this young man. He's quite pleasant when compared to the last one, he thought. "Yes. I wanted to take a carriage the rest of the way instead of flying there," Ning said. "I see," the young man said. "Are you a disciple of the 5 Professions Academy?" "No, but that is my destination right now," Ning said. "Ah, me too. I'm studying to become an alchemist. What about you?" the young man asked excitedly. "Me? I haven't thought about it yet. I will think about it once I reach the 5 Professions city," he said. "Oh, please come in," the young man called him in. "What's your name, fellow Taoist?" he asked. "I'm Ning Ruigong. What about you?" Ning asked. "I'm Ender Riget, second son of the Riget family," the young man said. Ning didn't show any change on his face after hearing the name, but inside, he was confused beyond belief. What's the Riggett family? Is that a famous family? He wondered. He quickly hated what he was going to have to do now. Still, he opened the interface in front of him and started using it. He made some light conversation with Ender while he searched for the information on the central continent through the system. What grade alchemist are you right now, Brother Ender? Ning asked. Oh, I'm barely a grade 4 alchemist. I still have my ways to go before I really become someone great, he said with a humble smile. Grade 4. That's pretty good. I know an alchemist too, so I know how hard it is to go up the grades. It's not very easy reaching the 4th grade. If you continue down this path, you will surely make it big in the future. Who knows, you might become a 10th grade alchemist, Ning said. Haha, you jest a lot, Brother Ning. Only the Saint Alchemist has ever managed to reach the 10th grade. I will be the happiest man on earth as long as I reach the 8th grade, Ender said with a smile. I see, Ning said. Well, I hope you do better than 8th grade, Brother Ender. Just then, he found the knowledge he had been looking for. Without hesitation, he clicked buy. The southwest part of the central continent was ruled by the Huayan dynasty. They were one of the 5 rulers that ruled the central continent. The 5 dynasties weren't at war with each other, but they weren't very lax with each other either. They owned about 1/5 of the land while the other 4 empires owned the rest of the land. They had a fairly decent amount of strength and were middle of the pack in terms of strength. The weakest of the 5 was the Sun Empire in the middle, where most of the empire was simply desert and chi was way too sparse for them to produce strong cultivators. While the empires on the edges, like the Huayan Empire, had a lot more abundance of chi and didn't need to worry about getting enough sun to become a desert. Also, being next to the seas opened up a massive source of food to these 4 empires that the Sun Empire could not hope to get. The Huayan Empire was full of nobles and commoners. Similar to Vilmore, one could use their contributions to become a noble. However, there were no distinctions between nobles and all were in equal standing, at least according to the system. Obviously, a noble house of higher strength had more influence and thus indirectly more authority when compared to the noble houses that didn't have as many cultivators to threaten others. The strongest amongst these houses were the Flyen House, the Libban House, the Udler House, and the Praxton House, which were together known as the 4 great houses. The Riggett family that Ender came from was a newly established noble house starting with Ender's father, Ember Riggett. Ning mused to himself about how different the central continent was from the southern continent and the northern continent. There were very few places in those 2 continents where the concept of noble and commoner existed. Even if it did, it was outshined by the difference between a cultivator and a mortal. I think you should really consider what profession you want to learn more in before you enter the 5 Professions Academy, Brother Ning, Ender said with a concerned face. Ning wondered. The 5 professions in the Academy's name referred to alchemist, formation master, artifact creator, talisman creator, and finally a beast master. Ning had wondered for a second as to why there was no physician profession, as those were quite necessary in the world as well. But it had turned out that in the central continent, alchemists also did the job of physicians in part. Alchemists were taught to recognize illness, diseases, and any other complications a human being might have and used pills instead of pastes to cure them. Ning thought through these 5 professions and quickly decided what he was going to take. After letting Anya learn about alchemy, he had also dabbled in it for a few years, albeit not enough to know how good he was yet. I think I will become an alchemist as well, Ning said with a smile. He was looking forward to seeing if he could become a grade 10 alchemist now. Are you joking, Brother Ning? Ender asked seriously. Ender felt like this decision of Ning's was way too fast and that he was mocking him in a way. Ning understood what Ender felt and quickly explained. I have tried alchemy before, Brother Ender, so I decided to properly learn it this time. Honestly speaking, I could enter the Beast Master's profession as well since I am a beast tamer as well, but I wouldn't know what to do in that case. There is only so much you can do as a beastmaster, while as an alchemist, you can help so many people, Ning said. Ender's eyes slowly changed from anger to surprise to genuine happiness. Right? There are so many people you can help as an alchemist. My sister said I was stupid to think of helping people in a world of cultivators where one kills the other for something petty, but I insisted on helping the others. I kept telling her that there have to be other people who follow my sentiment. It's good to see that I am not alone after all, Ender said. Ning smiled listening to the words of a young man who had finally found a friend in his lone journey. Ning looked outside the window and saw some trees along the forest, along with people who either flew through the air or rode on beasts. The carriage reached an intersection in the middle of nowhere, where the incomers from two of the other roads joined the third to go towards the fourth. Suddenly, the number of people going towards the city tripled, which surprised Ning quite a lot. He looked at the massive amounts of people as a question formed in his heart. "Brother Ender, those two roads back there, where do they lead to?" he asked. He could see in the map where the roads led to, but there were just too many roads that connected to it to actually truly know the final destination of that road. "Oh, those roads are the two main highways to the Phoenix Kingdom up north and the Arabian Empire to the east," Ender said. "I thought so." After looking through the map of where he was, especially after learning about the different kingdoms and nobles, he had realized that the Five Professions city was at the northeastern part of the Hawaiian Empire, a location that was equally accessible by four of the five empires of the Central Kingdom. Meaning, the Five Professions Academy was one of the most sought places in all of the Central Continent where people from all over the continent came to learn in. That was enough to show just how prestigious the academy was and what the continent thought of it. Realizing that he was on his way there too, Ning started getting excited too. He hadn't felt this excited since he first became a cultivator all those years ago. Ning looked outside his carriage at the thousands of people in carriages making their way to the Five Professions city. There were just way too many people here, and that got Ning a little curious. Are all of these people really going towards the academy? Or are some just going towards the city? Ning asked. "Oh, it should be a mix of both, but I would say it's primarily people that are going for the academy. The entrance exam is in a month, so it's not that early for students to come and learn from the experts in preparation. Although, since the Five Professions city does have a lot of experts in every field, it's not impossible that a lot of the people are just going to the city to look for professional help," Ender said. "I see," Ning said as he looked outside. He continued his conversation with Ender and learned that he had been on the carriage for 3 days now, moving without stop. The horse-like beasts that pulled the carriage could go on for days without a single drop of sweat leaving their bodies. Ender's home was in a small city known as Fairdust City. However, Ender talked about how the city would soon become big since his sister had managed to find a job in the academy, and he too would soon become a student there. Together, they would become the future pillars of House Riggett and make waves in the empire. Or so Ender fantasized. His first struggle was just a month away from him. He could truly do what he wanted to do once he passed the entrance exam. The carriage stopped all of a sudden and one of the men from outside shouted in, "We're here, young master." "Oh, seems we've made it, Brother Ning," Ender said and stuck his head out of the window. Ning did the same thing, as it would be highly disrespectful and even illegal in some places to spread one divine sense inside the city. When he looked out, he was immediately in awe. In front of them was a massive city at the foot of a giant mountain. There were no walls to protect them from attacks, or any sort of defense against invasions or illegal entry. The houses started small but got bigger and bigger as they went closer to the mountain, and then a set of stairs ran up the mountain to the top where the biggest building Ning had ever seen lay. He finally caught sight of the academy. "Whoa," he said in pure shock. He hadn't expected the building to be so big, let alone it being on top of the mountain. He had fully expected to see it at the foot of the mountain. "That actually looks good," he thought. Suddenly, a divine sense landed on the carriage. "Huh? Who is daring enough to send divine sense here?" Ning thought and was about to send out his own when Ender stopped him. "Brother Ning, don't do that. Only a few people such as the guards and the starred individuals are allowed to use divine sense inside the city," he said. "Oh, so this one is a guard then," Ning thought. They must have been checking through the carriages was what he believed. Maybe, but Ender was about to say something when the two men from outside suddenly spoke out loud. "Welcome, young miss. Ah, sister is here." Ender immediately got excited and opened the door to his carriage. Just then a girl that looked to be in her mid-20s entered the carriage and sat opposite to where Ning and Ender were seated. The girl had a small, beautiful face with fair skin and long jet black hair. She was wearing a plain green robe with translucent sleeves. The one thing that was weird on her body was the golden star-shaped pin on the left side of her chest. The pin was about 5 centimeters big and had a hammer engraved onto it. Is she what he called a starred individual? Ning thought. The star certainly did look quite fancy in his eyes and was probably something that was not very common in the city if only they got to use it. The girl looked at Ning with blue eyes and suddenly squinted them as if she was looking for something on his face. Hello," Ning said, not knowing what else to say. "Who are you?" the girl asked with a threatening voice. Her cultivation base of the 5th nascent soul realm undulated as if it was something alive with a pulse. I'm Ning Ruigam, I was hitchhiking and your brother let me ride in the carriage, Ning said. She suddenly turned towards Ender to look at him for confirmation. Why yeah sister, he looked like he wanted to travel and I let him. He's going to the academy to become an alchemist just like me, Ender said. No, he leaves now. The sister then turned to Ning and shouted once more. Leave, don't ever come close to my brother, she said. What? Ning was surprised by the sudden order. Still, this was technically her carriage so he decided to do what she said. Alright, I'll leave. I'll see you later in the academy, brother Ender, he said and walked out the door. Ender wanted to say something, but his sister stopped him. Ning simply nodded to the two drivers and walked towards the city, along with the many other people that were walking there. A divine sense followed him all the way until he reached the city. Only then did it go away. Damn, why was that girl such a B***tch? He wondered. He could understand her trying to protect her brother from strangers, but there was no need for her to be so angry about it. Sigh, whatever, he thought and walked into the open city. Another few divine senses landed on him for a few seconds before disappearing. The guards? He wondered for a moment and stopped caring. He walked into the city and looked at the massive buildings. Where should I go now?